Hello, hello. Hello, my dragon seeds. It's me, the late Lord Haven. Late as ever. How are we all doing? How's my audio? Is everything okay? Oh, we've got a lot of people waiting for this. There's something special happening today. Haha. There we go. It is the 1 year anniversary of Fantasy Haven. And today we'll be celebrating by watching some of me old videos. Hello, like this. My old reviews of every episode of House of the Dragon, which I released as the show was coming out. So we're going to check these out and take the piss out of them because they're probably terrible. But before we do that, let me see what the chat's been saying. Hello, everyone. Come in, come in. Thank you for all your support, by the way. I did a tweet and I did a community post and I got lots of great feedback. You're all amazing. I couldn't do this without you. Yeah, I've been going for a year. It's crazy. 1 whole year. 19,000 subscribers, nearly 2 million views overall. A couple of viral videos here and there. You're supposed to do that stuff in like 5 years, not 1 year. So we're leading the charge of the new generation of A Song of Ice and Fire YouTubers. And you guys are the special people who got to be there early, you know? It's really exciting. This is a bit like the Queen, right? Rest in peace. The Queen has 2 birthdays in England, in the UK. There's the official birthday when she was born, and then there's a sort of ceremonial birthday. This is my official birthday. This is the Fantasy Haven birthday where, yeah, on the 25th of September 2022, I did set up my channel and I did post my episode 1 review. But my ceremonial anniversary, I think, will be the new year, because the 2nd of January is when I posted the worst episode of House of the Dragon. Best episode of House of the Dragon video. I posted that with 19 subscribers, and that's what started my career, basically. So that's sort of the other anniversary, but this is my technical 1 year anniversary. Yes, so before we start, if anyone has not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. That helps. Like and comment. That helps this stream spread. This looks like it's going to be a popular stream, so go ahead and like if you want. If you're interested in supporting the channel more, I've got a Patreon. You know, Discord access, exclusive videos. I draw art for you, all kind of fun stuff. And as with all my streams, have fun in the chat, ask me questions, send in super chats for questions and theories and suggestions, and I will prioritise those. Or just sit back and enjoy the show. So here we are, the Haven Variety Hour. Who's here? We've got a bunch of the old gang, the classic crew who always watch my videos. Hello, Jace the Ace, the first commenter of this stream, who said, "Not sure if you'll see this because it's before the stream, but I just wanted to say congrats on a year. I love your videos, and you've helped push me into working on my own vids." I wanted to shout that one out because, you know, I was inspired by people like Glidus and ASoIaF to make videos, so I'm glad that I'm acting as an inspiration to you because it's all a cycle. So, can't wait to see your videos. In fact, everyone go and subscribe to JC Ace in the chat. I don't think there are any videos on his channel now, but maybe in the future they'll be coming out. Okay, enough waffle. I've just been waffling, haven't I? I've just been rambling on and on. We wanna get into the videos, don't we? Yeah, this is a face reveal stream, by the way. My face is on the screen. Hey, Carl. Thank you. You're right. 1k to 20k. Let's do it. Am I British? No, I'm not British. I'm a resident of Guantanamo Bay, technically. I escaped months ago, but that's a different thing altogether. Of course I'm British. How can I not be? Listen to my accent. You Americans out there can't tell the difference between English and Australian accents. Quinn the GM himself was like, he thought ASoIaF was British. I was like, how dare you? Okay, shall we... Cool. Let's begin. I don't want gotta make sure the audio of the actual video is okay. The first ever video, House of the Dragon episode 1 review. 6,000 views. Cool. 25th of September last year. Let's begin.
Hello, my dragon seeds.
What was that I said? What was that I said at the start? Hold on.
Hello, my dragon seeds.
Hello, my dragon seeds. Now that was a classic. That was how I started all of my reviews. I'm already cringing. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Hello, my dragon seeds. That didn't stick. Can't think why.
Welcome to Fantasy Haven.
Oh, the original Haven. The original Lord Haven. There he is. This is a shirt I own. Fun little shirt. My patrons have seen my face reveal, so they know I own this shirt in real life. This is before I added skin tones to my characters as well, so it's just sheet white. The eyes were smaller. Now I have big eyes, and I trace a black line around them, and then I have a lighter shade of the eye colour to add a sort of glow, like a little shine effect in the corner. But with these, it's just like a little dot. So yeah, you can see my art's improved over the years. But also, interesting fact, not that interesting, I'll say it anyway. In my current videos, I use DaVinci Resolve to edit my videos. It's free. Originally, I did have Adobe, but then I couldn't afford to keep up that subscription. But I believe this video, and only this video, is the only video on my channel that's made with Premiere Pro or After Effects. I can't remember which one. But yeah, this is the original Haven.
This is my spoiler review of the first episode of House of the Dragon, Heirs of the Dragon, Anyway, this...
We're starting off with a banter. That was a running joke too with my reviews, where I'd be like, I just say "of the dragon" at the end of the start and stuff.
Review will delve into book spoilers.
Oh, wow. Yes. Oh my goodness. Shall I bring this back? Who wants to see that again? Beautiful. Don't worry, I'm not going to be pausing it like literally every second. It's just right to the start.
Spoilers.
Classic. The music is the music I still use at the end of my videos, which is called A New Hero in Town, one of the free instrumentals by Kevin MacLeod on incompetech.com, if you want to check it out. Yeah, that was my little intro. Because, of course, if you know the lore of the Fantasy Haven iceberg, right at the bottom, I initially tried to start up a channel called History Haven, and it wasn't successful. But originally, and the theme for Fantasy Haven used to be purple, as you can see by all the thumbnails, right? And the background was purple, and then History Haven had an orange background, and I planned to bring it back, and I haven't since. But the intro is very similar with the bouncing head and eyes.
I'm a huge fan of the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. After Season 5 of Game of Thrones aired, I read all the books and then binged the show in time for Season 6. Like all annoying book fans, I watched on as the show gradually degraded in quality, culminating in the downright bizarre and awkward final season.
What are transitions, though? Apparently I hadn't discovered transitions during my first video, just hard cut to everything.
But by then my emotional investment had waned, so I kind of treated it as dumb popcorn spectacle. Despite the hurt, I've been cautiously optimistic about Hot D. The old producers at HBO who made questionable decisions are gone. George R. R. Martin is involved because the man clearly has ADHD.
Give him some Ritalin for the love of God.
And the showrunners are Miguel Sapochnik and Ryan Condal. Miguel is a fantastic...
the way... I don't know why that's funny to me, the way I was just frozen up. I could have got some better quality photos, eh?
Director, and we now know that his more questionable choices are due to D&D's micromanagement, while Ryan Condal is a huge fan of A Song of Ice and Fire, just to ignore the fact that he wrote these movies.
That's true. People, he has a writing credit on Rampage. I haven't seen either of these movies, but I have heard they are terrible. But then in Hollywood, that's the thing with a writer credit. You could write a script and then 10 people doctor it, and by the end it's completely different, but you still get credited, so I don't know. We'll give Mr. Condor a pass, shall we?
The casting has also been pretty awesome. Paddy is a national treasure, and I've been hyping up Matt Smith since the first announcement, and I really like how they've been hiring theatre actors who haven't had much experience on TV, such as Emma Darcy.
Theatre actors on TV, such as Emma Darcy. Oh, super chat. Thank you for the super chat from Jordan Hurstig, who says, "Love your videos, congrats on 1 year." Thank you so much. I love you too.
I'm also a fan of Fire and Blood. Yeah, I know. People find it dry and boring, and they're mad that it came out before the Winds of Winter.
What was that zoom in? What was that? What was... Also, art by Ben Wheatley. Ben Wheatley is the name of an English director. I'm thinking of Doug Wheatley, Doug Wheatley did the art in Fire and Blood. I can't even get the artist's name right.
And, I don't know, I enjoyed it personally. I will say that I have mixed opinions on the Dance of the Dragons itself as a storyline. On one hand, it's better for adaptation than, say, Aegon's Conquest. There are plenty of colourful characters, twists and turns, political scheming, family drama, and crazy battles. I actually don't mind that there isn't a looming apocalyptic threat. That was Game of Thrones. This is something else.
The script's not too bad. I was kind of thinking everything else is dodgy. So far, what I'm saying, I remember this being more rambly and kind of like just my thoughts off the top of my head, but there must be a script here because it's actually not too bad. It's kind of structured.
My issue is that it's a very nihilistic story. George is ultimately a romantic author with a capital R and a subversive streak. A Song of Ice and Fire isn't about how honour and courage and love don't exist because the world is shit. It's a story about how these things exist in spite of the world being shit, kind of. The Dance of the Dragons is pretty much about a bunch of horrible, ambitious people who all end up dying and cause the death and suffering of tens of thousands for their petty goals. Admittedly, this could be because it's ultimately a moderately detailed outline.
Bro.
Not a proper story. If George had a blank slate and wanted to write The Dance of the Dragons as a series of books, I imagine the end result would be completely different. Architects, gardeners, blah blah blah. So I'm very excited for this story being adapted.
I love it's literally just like images. It's just still images over and over. It's charming, I think. Thank you for the super chat from Samantha B, who says, "Praise Lord Haven, purveyor of law, navigator of the Forest of Doom." Thank you so much, Samantha, for supporting the channel. I am indeed the navigator of the Forest of Doom, that being the choose-your-own-adventure fantasy book that I sometimes live stream, and the viewers you guys get to vote on each of my actions. Excuse me, I was trying to hold in a hiccup there.
I just wonder whether the entire thing will be too dark and dour and depressing with no positive messages or light-hearted relief.
Where is the funny dwarf with the cock jokes?
Anyway, let's dive into the first episode. I really enjoyed it.
Then there's my hot take of episode 1. I really enjoyed it. Who could have seen that coming?
Seen it about 3 times by now, and it's slightly gone up in my estimation. Premieres are extremely difficult to do, let alone a premiere in this kind of bizarre situation. It's a sequel series to a show whose ending received an almost universally negative backlash. It's based on a fake history book with a bunch of cool story beats and characters but no real emotional depth, and there are about 10 different places they could have started. The premiere isn't perfect, but the fact it was this successful is a huge achievement in and of itself.
Nice. I just thought I'd insert my face halfway through the video. There we go. That's cool. This is like a proper review, though. This is a proper review. I'm giving my thoughts here. This isn't shitposting. This isn't too bad. It's visually very uninteresting. Visually very uninteresting. It's just still images. I think I didn't know how to put like clips from the show in the videos. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, how do people do that stuff? So I was just taking screenshots from the episodes. Oh, thank you for the super chat from MPD, who says, "What do you think about young Griff being the one to ride Viserion? I like the idea that Dany will marry Jon and Egg." Oh, I see. Probably cope though. Congrats on 1 year. Thank you very much. I was wondering what you meant, but you mean, yeah, Dany marrying Jon and Egg, like Aegon. The whole Valyrian wedding. Aegon the Conqueror with his sister wives. That's paralleled there. You have Daenerys the Conqueror with her brother. No, hold on. Nephew husbands. Yeah. Assuming young Griff is who he claims to be, nephew husbands. I could potentially see Griff riding a dragon. Not because he's on Daenerys' side, but in order to have that kind of Dance of the Dragons 2 conflict with Targaryen facing off against Targaryen. And of course, if young Griff is in fact a Blackfire, he's still got the Targaryen bloodline, so he may be able to ride a dragon. In terms of it being Viserion, Daenerys having to face off against her own dragon, Viserion, has been a theory since before the show. Before the show, had that plot point of Viserion dying and being resurrected as a as a white, as an undead dragon, because Viserion is named after her brother Viserys, the abusive brother. Drogon is named after the husband that she loved. Of course, many people say it's Stockholm Syndrome, but at least in the text it's meant to be romantic, which is kind of dodgy, but that's a different discussion. And Rhaegal, of course, is named after Rhaegar, the brother that she only imagines as being this sort of legendary figure. And then Viserion, compared to these two heroes she loves, you have Viserion named after Viserys, who she kind of hates. So many people have said Viserion will be the one that, becomes an undead dragon, or will be claimed by young Griff and will fight against her, or will be claimed by Victarion, or will be claimed and ridden by Euron Greyjoy. I think it does feel like we are being set up for a dragon-on-dragon confrontation, whether it's a undead dragon or a sort of Targaryen v Targaryen / Targaryen v Blackfire attack. I don't know, but I do think it's inevitable, and I think if there is such a conflict, it will be Viserion will be the odd one out, because just in terms of the naming convention. Thank you for the super chat from Key, who says, congrats on 1 year, Haven, lots of love. Lots of love back to you, Key. Thanks for being a great supporter and a great patron. 1 whole year, that's crazy. I've been doing this for a year. My God. Anyway.
I think having an audience that's already familiar with the locations and the houses and so on definitely helps. They seem to be relying on people wanting to return because they love the universe and are intrigued by the first entry. As a result, the episode doesn't really end with a bang the same way the first Game of Thrones episode did. It strolls into your house, introduces you to these characters and themes, sees itself out, and gives you a parting wink that says, see you next week. Unlike Winter is Coming, which broke down your door, dumped a paralysed child on your living room floor and started Fortnite dancing.
That character.
That's kind of funny. There's some personality to these early videos, isn't there? Dear Lord. I just compared the first episode of Game of Thrones to an intruder breaking into your house, dumping a paralysed child on your floor and Fortnite dancing. Yeah, man's had the wit. Man was witty.
There wasn't a single weak link among the characters or the actors. I don't think there's a single miscast so far. For me, the standout performances...
Yeah, I was right in that. There wasn't a miscast. There's not a single person Hoddy I would be like, oh, you probably should have hired someone else for that role. Great casting.
Were Cheyenne Brooke as Emma and Paddy Considine as Viserys, without a doubt. I fell in love with a character that had just 3 scenes, including a death scene, and Viserys was summed up perfectly by George R.R. Martin. Tragic majesty. In just 1 episode, I already understand this guy's emotions and complexion, and I love it. I think the writing and the acting should be
emotions and complexion. I think I meant complexity, not complexion. I was overwhelmed by his complexion. I love the pink tinge. Who's that on the far right? Emily Carey, aka Alison.
Tragic majesty. In just 1 episode, I already understand this guy's emotions and complexion, and I love it. I think the writing and the acting should be equally praised for this. In the books, he's a jolly fat man, and Paddy's Viserys is certainly a cheery dude, at least at the start, but he acts like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he just isn't strong enough to keep it up. The emotions he goes through this episode alone, anticipation, horror, grief, anger, determination, I'm so glad he isn't this one-note character. It would have been so easy to make him just the jolly party king, or the politically oblivious idiot who never stands up for himself, or the sexist pig who doesn't care about his wife. Let's hope Viserys continues to stand out throughout the season.
And he did. He did stand out. I did like how Viserys wasn't a cliche. He could have easily been a cliche. Like, I listed all of them there, the kind of, the boorish, sexist, bearded, "Rah, I'm a king, I'm a medieval king," all the sort of snivelling coward, all the puppet of greater forces. But Hot D Viserys really was, he was his own man, he was his own person. He was weak and strong in different ways and to varying degrees. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to boast, I'm going to brag about this. I was hype about the casting from the start. People were so negative to begin with. They were like, Emma Darcy, it doesn't look like Rhaenyra. Matt Smith is too ugly to be Daemon. Oh, Paddy Considine, who I've never even heard of him. He doesn't look like Viserys. He's not fat. And I was like, Matt Smith is amazing. My boy from Doctor Who's amazing. Paddy Considine, great actor. Like, I knew they were going to smash out the park. People always just... It always happens. The initial casting process, people are so negative. And then the moment it's on the TV, the bandwagon collapses and there's a new bandwagon circle jerking about how great they are. And everyone immediately, like, pretends that they never... Like, people really... Less so Paddy, but people hated Matt Smith's casting initially. Now people say he's one of the best parts of the show. But people are like... They despised the idea of Matt Smith being Daemon because in their head, despite not actually being described physically in the books, Daemon is a sort of generic, brooding, handsome, roguish man from the cover of a romance novel. Matt Smith is a kind of interesting looking dude. But of course I was like, well, he's a fantastic actor, so I know he's going to smash it out of the park. And so now we've gone from everyone saying, oh, Matt Smith is too ugly to play Daemon, to everyone calling him Daddy Daemon. So that's what a great performance can provide.
Used to stand out throughout the season. Speaking of one note, I have a confession to make.
You know what? I'm about to say it.
Say it.
I don't care.
About Daemon Targaryen.
Oh, I got the jokes back then. That's true though. I'm gonna let it play. It's funny. What I'm saying here is now becoming a slightly more popular, not a consensus, but idea within the fandom. The people basically saying that beyond the hype, Daemon is not that interesting of a character. I'll let myself explain. Hard up for Haven. I'm gonna let you finish. But Haven had the best speech of all time. So let's listen.
At least in Fire and Blood. I just don't understand the hype. Yeah, he's suddenly badass, mercurial, villainous, but there's too much telling and not enough showing. We're told he's this beloved figure, a hero to some and a villain to others. We don't really see it. Where's the heroic part? Generally, he just comes across as a straight-up villain. Matt Smith's Daemon is already...
Okay, so basically, I never cared that much about Daemon having read the book. I was just like, okay, cool, there's too much telling and not enough showing. You know, George R. R. Martin was telling us how epic and badass and cool he was without having him actually do anything that's particularly epic or badass or cool, and telling us how morally ambiguous he is, despite him basically being portrayed as just morally bad. You know, I felt like there's some disconnect, and I thought I was in the minority when I said this. But, and again, I'm talking about book Daemon specifically, right? But now I'm seeing it's becoming more popular in the fandom that people are like, is Daemon that cool? I think what people do is they create, especially the more intense fans, take vague characters and even like archetypes, you know, described in Fire and Blood, and they create entire like lives and artwork and all this stuff around them to the point where they become obsessed with a certain image of that character that doesn't exist in the book but exists in their head. So they have all these ideas of who Daemon is and what he did during every year and what he looks like and blah blah blah. And then they cast someone who looks a way they don't like and they lose their mind, or you know, the character does something in the show that they wouldn't have done in that person's headcanon, and they get angry, and it's like, it's all kind of ridiculous. And that stuff's fun, by the way. Headcanoning and all that stuff is really fun and entertaining, and I encourage it. It's just when you take it to the point where you're pissed off at the show, you're pissed off at an adaptation for not conforming to your personal idea of a character or a storyline that isn't even expanded upon in the book, then that's a bit silly, you know?
Better. Maybe I'm biased because I grew up on Doctor Who and the 11th Doctor was an absolute lad, but this Daemon already feels more sympathetic and complex.
The first episode, it was genuinely kind of hard to get into Daemon as a character, just because in my head I'm like, this is Matt Smith, this is the Doctor, you know. And I love Matt Smith, but in my head it was Matt Smith in a wig. Episode 2 onwards is when it stopped being Matt Smith in a wig. It may be in episode 3 onwards, actually. And then it just became Daemon. But that first episode, I was just like, Matt Smith in the wig, you know.
He's certainly a violent rogue, and he's creepy around Rhaenyra, and he's just a dickhead in general, but there are moments of vulnerability. Having him gently speak to Rhaenyra at the funeral was a great touch, one proposed by Matt Smith, apparently, and the air for a day scene was deliciously ambiguous. I really can't tell if he was celebrating and being a bastard or if that's genuinely his odd way of grieving. Why
have I got the Morbius scene? Yeah. You could tell Matt Smith was extremely enthusiastic about this character, couldn't you? Because there are so many things we heard about him, things that he introduced to the show, like having him try and console Rhaenyra in High Valyrian during the funeral, or him picking up Viserys' crown and putting it on his head. All these ideas that weren't in the script, but he came up with. It's just, it's just cool to have actors that are that invested in their character, and it's cool to have producers and writers who are willing to listen to the actors and incorporate some of their ideas. Okay, what's the build up to Morbi? Why do I have a Morbius meme?
Being a bastard, or if that's genuinely his odd way of grieving. Matt Smith is fantastic as this smirking rogue. He's got a permanent twinkle in his eye and a sort of strange otherworldly appearance that works so well for a Targaryen. His High Valyrian was also pretty awesome. I also really enjoyed seeing Millie Alcock as Rhaenyra.
Okay, sure. Morbius was a bit of a meme around this time last year, so I was like, well, I've got no choice. Honestly, if it weren't for House of the Dragon, Matt Smith's career may be dead. Like, it may have been killed by Oh, you know what? My logo being highlighted in blue in the corner is genuinely annoying. There we go. My apologies.
She pulls off this feisty, irreverent teenager without it coming across as cringy and cliched. Her funeral scene in particular was a standout. I imagine it's difficult trying to convey grief and sadness while speaking a silly fantasy language. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Millie, and I'm sure the recast halfway through the season or whenever will be a gut punch. Time for a...
Yeah, I was just spitting facts, wasn't I? I knew, I could sense it. I think I have some decent predictions.
A quick-fire character round.
I also want to be careful about this because I think in some of my early reviews, I spoil elements of, Fire and Blood, that stuff that hasn't been in the show yet, so... I don't know, people watching, some of you presumably don't know what's going to happen, so I will skip over those bits.
Making Alicent Hightower the same age as Rhaenyra so that they can be friends was a genius decision, and it will make their inevitable breakup that more dramatic. I mean, it's not just an older woman marrying Rhaenyra's dad, it's her best friend. That's fucked up. We didn't see much of her this episode, but Emily Carey did a good job of portraying a rule-abiding, anxious young lady. I do like the touch of her anxious nail-picking and biting, even though it's kind of gross. Otto Hightower looks exactly how I imagined him in the book. Rhys Ifans just embodies this grasping, arrogant, serpentine character perfectly. I love that dead stare he keeps giving Daemon. Can't wait to see more of his machinations. We didn't see much of Corlys or Rhaenys, but what we did see leaves me wanting more. Corlys is this imposing, calculating, yet slightly frustrated presence. He's utterly fed up with the bullshit at court. He looks awesome with the silver dreads, and I'm very curious how the race change will affect the strong bastard storyline. My guess is that some ambiguity will remain. After all, genetics are strange.
Dude, that's interesting. I'm saying, like, feels like it's going to be ambiguous, right? With Laenor and Laena inevitably being mixed race, and then Laenor and Rhaenyra's quote-unquote children will be even more mixed, and genetics can be weird, and, kids with like a black grandfather can look really black, or can look mixed, or can look white. But I thought there'd be ambiguity. I didn't realise the show would flat out say, nah, they are Rhaenyra's bastards. They are Harwyn and Rhaenyra's bastards. Yeah, which I'm okay with, by the way. Some people didn't like the supposed ambiguity from the book being removed, but I don't think it was very ambiguous in the book, so I'm okay with it being blatant in the show.
And you can certainly have a quarter black child with white skin, but it'll be pretty obvious that the children are meant to be bastards, more so than in the book. Rhaenys had a Queen of Thorns vibe that I loved, although I hope her character has more going for her than just being bitter and not being queen. Lord Strong...
Yeah, no, she did have more going for her, didn't she?
Looked cool. The actor is bald, so I suspect he'll be losing that wig in the future.
Oh, can we listen to that prediction again? Your boy did his research. Listen to this.
The actor is bald, so I suspect he'll be losing that wig in the future.
The actor's bald, so I bet he'll be losing that wig in the future. That's exactly what they did. They hired a bald actor. They gave him a wig. After the 5-year time skip, he lost the wig. Haven did his Anyway, thank you for the super chat from Lala of House Loop C, one of my patrons, who says, you don't watch Hot D because of the Rhaenys scene. I don't watch it because it has women and minorities. We are not the same. Thank you, Lala Loopsy, for representing my community of patrons so amazingly. Yeah. We are not the same, Walter. Thank you for the super chat.
Melos brought a masterly gravitas, and Lyman Beesbury betting at the tourney made me laugh for some reason. I have a feeling they're going to make us love this sweet old B-man before he gets christened. We've seen 2 members of the Kingsguard so far, Ryan Redwine chilling in the background of scenes. I assume he dies next episode so that Harold West...
Who does he remind me of? He looks so familiar. He looks like Brian Cox. Yeah, it's Logan from Succession with a beard. What the hell? I keep forgetting this guy was in Hot D. Hold on, listen to this prediction as well.
Ryan Redwine chilling in the background of scenes. I assume he dies next episode so that Harold Westling becomes Lord Commander and then Kristen Cole gets accepted into the Kingsguard.
What? Guys, come on. I think he dies next episode so that so that Harold Westling becomes Lord Commander and Kristen can be accepted. I was right. He dies in the next episode, off screen. I must have looked at the Next Time trailer and I saw Kristen becoming a Kingsguard, and I was like, well, there needs to be an opening and Harold has to become Lord Commander, so this old man in the corner has to be killed off.
As Rhaenyra is sworn shield.
Rest in peace. F's in the chat for the greatest character in House of the Dragon. Should I do like a 30-minute YouTube video essay, like the best Hot D character you don't know about, and it's Ryan Redwine, and I just have to bullshit for half an hour about this character.
Speaking of Sir Harold, we finally have a Scottish accent in Thrones. I might do a video about accents in the show and books one day.
I think a lot of my videos involve me saying, I might do a video about this one day, and then I don't. But yeah, I won't go too much into it, but in the world of Westeros, we don't get that many accents. We usually get the nobility in the south of Westeros tend to have a generic Southern English accent, like the one I have, with varying degrees of sort of poshness. The peasantry tend to have Cockney accents, and then in the north, characters tend to have northern, sort of like Sheffield-based accents, Northern English accents. And then beyond the wall, again, it's either Northern English or it's Scandinavian accents. But we don't get any Scottish, and I do believe that Harold Westerling and Lord Beesbury are the only 2 actors to have Scottish accents in the entire TV universe of Westeros, unless I'm missing someone.
We didn't see much of Mysaria. I haven't heard enough of her accent to truly judge it, but she certainly looks the part. Same with Kristen Cole. Didn't see much...
Okay, that didn't age well. That's the one...
I haven't heard enough of her accent to truly judge it, but
I haven't heard enough of her accent to truly judge it. No, that's not actually a bad take. That's just me saying. Because her accent is okay in the first episode. I think it's episode 2 onwards where it's noticeably weird.
Certainly looks the part. Same with Kristen Cole. Didn't see much of him. Looks the part. Annoyingly handsome. I guess if dragons count as characters, I love their unique looks and personalities. Cyrax gives me loyal dog energy, and Caraxes is a cantankerous beast and a long boy. Their CGI quality seems to vary depending on the scene, but mostly they look fine to me. I thought the writing was pretty great as well. The episode was paced well. I understand this first season is going to be a slow burn, but that's fine by me. It gave me season 1 vibes. Long scenes that let the story breathe, deep character moments, small council scenes. I fucking love small council scenes. I know it's nerdy, but they're my favourite thing. I don't know why they vanished after season 5.
That is a really good point. Also, shout out to the conveniently placed Havenhead. Yeah, I love the small... They're some of my favourite things in the show and in the books, but sometimes back in the day I just watch compilation videos of small council scenes from the old seasons, and then in the later seasons they just abandoned them. I remember being so frustrated in season 6 where you'd have Kevin Lannister and Olenna Tyrell and Mace on the small council, and Jaime and Cersei wanted to join the small council and talk to them. And they did this petty thing where they'd stand up and walk away and be like, well, you can't, you can come to the council room. That doesn't mean the council has to stay. And it's just no, give us a council scene. I want people talking politics around a table, talking strategy. And they just stopped doing that in the show, even though they were some of the best scenes. It's really weird. And then House of Dragon brought them back. And they're okay in House of Dragon. They're good. They don't have the same sort of vibrancy as they do in the original Game of Thrones, but it's still cool getting that back. Ryan Condor seems to be into the same kind of stuff I am in his universe. He likes the politics.
There were a few issues with the dialogue, a few exposition-y lines here and there. My Zarya describing Daemon as rider of Craxes, wielder of Dark Sister didn't really feel natural, and Corlys was basically reading off Craggas Crabfeeder's A Wiki of Ice and Fire page.
That is funny when Corlys walks in. He's like, they call him the Crab Feeder.
The actors were able to elevate some of the more awkward lines, although the first scene with Rhaenyra and Alicent in the Godswood had a bit of an awkward flow. The rules of the tourney also seemed a bit puzzling. I mean, I get why Daemon gets to choose his opponent, after all he's the Prince of the City, but why does he do this after the first jousting match between Criston and Bormund? That doesn't seem fair. Surely he should have done it before. Also, is Daemon allowed to just trip up that horse? Yeah, I know, jousting rules weren't codified, they weren't set in stone, fair enough. I guess you can chalk all of this up to, he's the king's brother, he can do whatever the fuck he wants, which is fair.
There's nothing people love more than an obnoxious nitpicker.
The bloody fight that breaks out is probably the strangest part of the episode for me. I assume it's not a melee because they're fighting with sharp weapons and killing each other. This isn't a gladiator match. These are the sons of high lords, and some of them are lords themselves. I think it's meant to be a spontaneous skirmish that spreads among the nobles, and no one does anything about it because the king is gone and they all want to see bloodshed. But I don't think it was conveyed well enough visually.
Yeah, that was a weird scene for me, where like a couple of them get into an argument and then they all start fighting each other. And like I said, I get the idea behind it, but it was directed and it was edited in a really weird way. Yeah.
I do like Rhaenys's line about green boys and men with fists full of steel and balls full of seed. Like, I get the point of the scene, I just thought it was handled a bit awkwardly. Other than that, though, the direction by Miguel was fantastic. Unlike Game of Thrones, which was obsessed with zooming in on actors' faces while they awkwardly stared ahead, House of the Dragon has a sense of scope that the previous show wasn't able to achieve.
Why am I doing
A big
this?
budget helps, but the wide shots and the sweeping shots make the thing feel like a movie.
Yeah. It's another thing. I keep pausing this and then agreeing with myself. I thought this would be like I thought this video would suck, honestly. But visually, it's fucking terrible. Audio-wise, it's terrible. I'm actually making good points. I'm surprised. Like, in the old show, that there weren't enough wide shots or establishing shots. There were so many scenes. You know, you had all this amazing scenery and set pieces, and yet all the scenes were like the camera shoved into an actor's face while they kind of silently and dramatically stared ahead, and it was just, every scene was littered with all these pregnant pauses, and it was just awkward and weird. And I remember me and my mates at uni would watch it, and we just looked at each other like, what's going on? Why is everyone just like staring silently at each other?
Highlight of the episode, of course, was the death of Emma Arryn, intercut with fighting at the tourney. It's not a subtle message, but I appreciate Miguel using the medium of visuals to tell a story. He does this as well with establishing character relationships. Glances and glares tell you exactly how each character feels about each other. The costumes and armour were awesome. I never really liked the costume and armour in Game of Thrones, especially in the later season. Everything was so drab, and I mean, those last two seasons, everyone was wearing black for some reason. The bright heraldry and the surcoats, the detailed...
Wait, let me get that up. That's a cool behind-the-scenes photo from episode 1. We have some knights from the tourney. So we have a Tyrell knight, which is cool. We have a Bolton knight, which is interesting. Bolton's going to a tourney, because usually lots of Northerners, they're not knighted. You have to be a knight to be an attorney, right? No, you don't have to, because Thoros of Myr was in the melee. Not sure what the rules are, but yeah, as we all know, in the North, you follow the old gods generally, and knighthood is intrinsically linked with the faith of the Seven. So very few Northerners have knighthoods. Of course, there is, Ser Jorah Mormont and other exceptions to that rule. But we have a Bolton soldier, a Tyrell. Oh, what's this one meant to be? Is that Darklyn? Is that House Darklyn? And then this one I also don't remember.
The surcoats, the detailed embroidery on the dresses, and
the bees on his... That's cool.
And the dresses and the tunics, the grandiloquent jousting armour with the ridiculous helmets and the plumes. Amazing. I loved it. It felt so A Song of Ice and Fire while still being clearly within the Game of Thrones universe. The music didn't really stand out for me. Not that it was bad, it was amazing, because of course it's my boy Ramin, but it's just... He seemed like he was reusing music from Game of Thrones with a few tweaks, which is fine because that music is awesome, but I'm looking forward to something new. Oh, that reminds me. What is this show's theme song, and where is the intro? That's my biggest criticism. Game of Thrones had one of the greatest themes and intros of all time. I was so excited for this one, and it's just a dragon for a couple of seconds. If their thought process was, it won't be as good as the original, so don't bother, well, you can say that about anything, it just feels lazy. That is, of course, unless they're saving it for episode 2 and removing it from this episode because of the cold open, which I understand, so I'll save my rant for the next episode.
Yeah, and I was right, it was for the second episode. What I just didn't expect was for it to be literally the same theme song and a worse intro. They should have done a brand new theme song, honestly. Like, the Game of Thrones theme song does go hard, but they should have done a new one. Like, they should have done a new one. And also the visuals of the Hodia opening is bad. Like the bloodline thing, great concept, but the execution is terrible. Yeah, just bizarre and confusing.
Thank you for watching, everyone. What did you think about this episode? Did you love it, hate it? Are you going to keep watching? Like and subscribe to see my future videos. Alright, see ya.
Okay. Yeah. I will say one thing about all of these reviews is that they are edited by the YouTube editor, because I used to have a podcast called the Young Dragons podcast where I had to talk in detail about each of the shows and my each of the episodes and my thoughts on each episode, and then I uploaded those on YouTube, but then I ended up scrapping them. They're off YouTube, so I edited them edited them out of the intro because I kept getting comments saying where are the podcasts. So I was like, boop. Cool. Only 6,000 views. Okay, let's go on to episode 2. I think what I'm going to do with these future videos is I'm going to increase the speed so we can watch them a bit faster. I won't do as much pausing.
Hello, my dragon seeds. I'm going to change that soon. That doesn't feel right. Welcome to...
Oh, that's how I'll play that bit again.
Hello, my dragon seeds. I'm going to change that soon. That doesn't feel right.
I may have given up on dragon seeds immediately. I didn't know.
Welcome to Fantasy Haven. This is my spoiler review of the second episode of House of the Dragon, the Rogue Prince of the Dragon. Anyway, this review will delve into book spoilers.
Oh.
New intro, as I'd hoped. Would have liked a new theme song, but the Game of Thrones...
Already a change in this video in that I'm actually using a footage from the show.
One is awesome, so I do get it. I'm not mad, I'm just slightly disappointed. The concept behind the intro is certainly cool, but the execution is off. It's moved...
Again, let you in on a little secret. I didn't do what I should have done, which is just, find a way to get the episode online and then use OBS to record it, which you can't do on many things. But I don't know, maybe I should have torrented it or something, get the footage. But instead I just scoured YouTube for clips and reviews of House of the Dragon that had high quality footage from the show, and then I'd take all of those and I'd awkwardly download them and then put them onto DaVinci and then I'd cut them up. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even have OBS back then, actually. It was so all of this is me just taking footage from other YouTubers and then cutting it up into tiny sections and then putting it over my audio. It took a long time.
Moving too fast, and the theme is skipping a few beats. It's like the intro is trying to wrap up quickly. It's trying to move on. It'll be interesting to see how it changes over time with the introduction of new characters like Rhaenyra's children and Alicent's children.
So yeah, that's another interesting thing that I noted that it felt like there were some beats missing at the music at the start, which is true because that's the shortest version of the intro. The intro gets longer with more children, and then by episode 10, the entire theme plays. But what it means is in episode 2, with a shorter intro, it's skipping over beats, and I remember being like, this feels rushed.
So episode 2 feels like the second half of a 2-part prologue. It's only a time jump of 6 months, and it focuses on politics and dialogue-heavy scenes like the first episode, and it delves deeper into the characters we know instead of introducing new ones, who I think will come in on episode 3. And I think this is the vibe they were trying to go for. I've heard that Miguel Sapochnik was supposed to be the director for this episode, as well as the first, sort of keeping them connected, but he had to swap with Greg Yaitanes for some reason. If this is true, it does make a lot of sense.
I've got colour. I've got a skin tone. Hell yeah.
I mean, directorially, the episode is solid, it's competent, it's just sort of missing the epicness of the previous episode. Visually, the scenes are good, with the exception of the final scene between Corlys and Daemon and everything that shows Kragus Crabfeeder, which look phenomenal. Those scenes look like they're directed by someone else, honestly, they look fantastic. I don't blame Yaitanes for this. Episode 1 was a hard act to follow. Jumping into the directing seat at the last minute is a tough job, I imagine. So considering the circumstances, he did great. I think he's directing episode 3, so it'll be good to see him directing an episode he actually had time to prepare for and designed the storyboard for. The writing continues to be really great. We're exploring these characters more, we're getting their motivations and understanding their emotional emotional complexities. You know, it's treating the audience intelligently. Again, there are lots of things that aren't necessarily told to the audience; they're just hinted at. It seems to be hints that Viserys really doesn't like dragons, and that's why he's reluctant to send dragons out to war. You know, he says in episode 1, "They're a power men should never have trifled with, and it's an illusion that we control the dragons." And we know from the canon that.
Oh, that's some nice art there. Bring back dragon seeds for the Reach video. I've already Reach video's already done. I've already finished it. Not fully. I need to add the audio's done. I need to add music. That's it, and then export it. Then I'll schedule it for Friday, for Fantasy Haven Friday. You will see fantasy fantasies. I literally saw Carl's comment as I said that. You will see dragon seeds once again in the future. You will see it. Trust me. You will hear it, rather. Hello, my dragon seeds. Welcome to another Fantasy Haven video. Hey, it's Quinn the GM. Quinn the GM has entered the chat. Hello. I'm currently sitting in my legal research class, but congratulations and happy anniversary to the late Lord Haven. It would have been more in character if I'd thrown my anniversary tomorrow. Let me see if anyone noticed I was a day late. Go on, you get that degree, Quinn. Quinn is currently at law school. He's training to be my lawyer, and then together we are going to take on the world of business and stuff. Yeah.
He rode Balerion the Black Dread, and when that dragon died, he didn't ride another one. And in this episode, he says, admittedly, he says it jokingly, but he says, I'd rather face my 15-year-old daughter than the Black Dread. I'd rather face the Black Dread than my 15-year-old daughter. And obviously, he's joking a bit, but it does seem to give the impression that, he was scared of Balerion. He's scared of the dragons. He doesn't want to ride dragons. He doesn't want to use them. He doesn't want to send them out to war. And, it's not explicitly stated. Like, he doesn't need to say out loud, my motivation is I don't like dragons or whatever. But it's just something in the background, something to explore and talk about. Corlys's speech at the end of the episode was a standout for me. The moment where Otto delivers a Machiavellian monologue about his dead wife was masterful. And the glances he's giving Grand Maester Melos is, again, you don't need dialogue to explain this stuff. It's a visual form of storytelling. They're not just saying it to us. There are things we can pick up on. Was the writing as good as the previous episode? I think the exposition was less stilted, but of course the plot wasn't as dramatic as the first episode. But this episode is necessary. It's setting things up for the future. It's not an episode I think I'd want to go back and rewatch in a vacuum, by itself, but it's a necessary one for the season, for what the season's setting up, I think. So there's
people really liked episode 2. I was like, yeah, it's okay. But people really, really liked it. They were like, episode 2's amazing. People were like, episode 1's okay, but episode 2 is fantastic. I was the other way around. I was like, episode 1 was amazing, and then episode 2 was good.
In a 6-month time skip, which I didn't actually expect. I know there are time skips this season. I didn't expect such a big one so early. But the show handles it well, honestly. We get a good sense of how everyone has evolved in this time. Rhaenyra's realised that despite being named the heir, she still isn't treated with the respect she deserves. Her and Viserys...
What Maester Chainlink represents law. Yeah, Quinn's my Maester. Maester Quinn. I'm the late Lord Haven of the Crossing. Quinn will be my Maester with his chains, his lawcraft chains.
Still mourning Emma, but can't seem to talk with each other about it, and Viserys and Alicent are continuing to bond while Daemon sulks on Dragonstone. That's right, it wouldn't be a George R. R. Martin story without a king's younger brother sulking in pseudo-exile.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's look at that then. That is a bit of a trope. That is a bit of a gum trope. So we have, Prince Maekar goes off to sulk in Summerhall after the death of Baelor Baelor Breakspear. And then we have Stannis, of course, sulking in Dragonstone after Storm's End was granted to Renly. And now we have, in Fire and Blood and the show, we have Daemon sulking in Dragonstone as well. The younger brother sulking in pseudo, almost self-imposed exile. Something he's done before.
A king's younger brother sulking in pseudo-exile. This episode centres on 2 main conflicts, Viserys deciding whomsoever to marry, and Daemon doing a slightly increased amount of trolling. The Viserys plot manages to be engaging, creepy, blackly funny at times almost. It's probably established why she's an important match, and they try to mislead you by having most of his advisors speak favourably about the match. Yet when the twist comes, it makes sense. Alicent is older than Laena. Not by much, but, she's still older. They've bonded over their grief and the history of Valyria.
Yeah, when I say it's blackly funny, there was the bit where I do remember laughing when Lionel was like, she's a good match, what's not to like? And without skipping a beat, Viserys is like, she's a child.
Area and Viserys' Warhammer 40k set for half a year. Obviously, I know he married Alicent because I read Fire and Blood, but it was hilarious seeing the show-only people chastising this man for not marrying the child. That's the sign of a good show. When the audience is saying, I know it's horrible, but you should have married the child instead. What's wrong with you? Speaking of Viserys, I have a theory about his rotten finger. I think...
Theory about his rotten... Okay, let's see what my theory was. Let's see if my theory was correct.
After the time skip, not sure which one, his entire hand will be black and rotten, and Melos will tell him he has the choice of amputating it or trying some bullshit remedy. And Viserys will choose the bullshit remedy because he can't make the hard, painful decisions that will solve the problem quickly. Instead, he always chooses the safer option, the nicer option, and in doing so, he allows the rot and the corruption to spread.
Okay, that's cool. It's kind of half right, but not fully correct. I guess that he would lose a hand, and that the rot would spread because I knew that he'd get ill over the season, and that's because he's deliberately not doing the thing he needs to do, which is, oh, sorry, no, I didn't. Yeah, no, he's not doing the thing he needs to do, which is just cut off the appendage. He's letting the rot spread, and that's sort of, symbolic of what's happening to the court, maybe what's happening to the kingdom, and so on. So kind of half right there. It's a metaphor.
The chess pieces are moving this episode. We've seen lots of Otto and a fair bit of Melos. This episode gave us a nice scene of Lionel Strong as well, just to remind the audience that he does indeed exist and is a thing. I would like to see more love for the B-Man though. I wanna weep when the christening happens. Daemon, fighter of the night.
Oh wait. I'll slow down this bit. I remember this bit. Right.
B-Man though. I wanna weep when the christening happens.
Why is it okay? This bit.
Daemon, fighter of the Nightmon, champion of the sun, is
I really had the jokes, didn't I?
hosting a wedding, becoming a father, and stealing eggs. My guess is that these are just meant to be parlay forces, and Otto's plan is to prevent Viserys and Daemon from reconciling, but it is a little bit confusing. I assume if Rhaenyra hadn't arrived, Otto would have just ordered his men to retreat, and then feed back to Viserys bad stuff so that the brothers become completely and utterly astray.
Okay. How do I come up with the large eyes, armless silhouette for my drawings? I just looked at plane going overhead as usual. I just looked at fun history animations on YouTube, and a lot of them seem to have a similar design, which is sort of armless and or legless. And I just thought, yeah, I'll go with a sort of a body that's almost like a piece, like a counter or a chess piece or something. And then I thought, okay, how do I make the head stand out? Because someone oversimplified, he's got a round head, he's got the eyes, and then he's got he's just a round head and eyes, and it's oversimplified. He has a very distinct style. So I thought, how do I get a distinct style? And so I drew two large eyes, and had a kind of a 3-circle head, which gave them a pretty unique look. And I think it's panned out. I think it's when you see my thumbnails, it's memorable. It's like, oh yeah, that's a Fantasy Haven thumbnail. It's the characters with the giant eyes. It does, there are issues that come with that naturally, such as if Jaime Lannister losing his hand and getting a golden one, I literally can't do anything to show that because I don't have hands or arms. Or feet. Laris would hate my characters. Laris doesn't even watch my videos.
Ranged or something. Anyway, Rhaenyra does arrive, startling the spicy noodle. I love Caraxes' scream, by the way. It's so unique. You know how all those episodes of Game of Thrones would cut to black and end with a dragon screech? I want an episode of Hot D to cut to black and then you hear Caraxes' goofy ass dolphin scream. Speaking of goofy, I only dislike two parts of this episode really. The Kingsguard helmets suck. They really suck.
Yeah, they do.
Costumes and armor are great this season, but these.
Yeah. The helmets are bad. The helmets. I hope the helmets are different in season 2. They look very strange.
Helmets, they look weirdly sci-fi, and they make the wearer look ridiculous. I mean, look at Kristen. They made this handsome man look absurd. The other thing was Myzara's accent. It's a very bizarre choice. She sounds like she was raised in France and then transported to Wakanda or some shit. I don't know what this is. Raised in France and transported to Wakanda.
I was cool. Even in episode 2, I was calling out that accent. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there.
I think a kind of subtle, vague, foreign-y sounding accent would have worked, or even just the actress's English accent. It's such an exaggerated choice. I did no one at any point say, yeah, let's tone that down, So ignoring helmets and one character's accent, why exactly is the show working? Critics called it dour, boring, and slow-paced. Yet the ratings are going up and everyone is raving, from the book fans to the casual show fans, even those who haven't even watched Game of Thrones, like Nash from the Nerd Soup podcast. He's getting engaged in this show, and he doesn't really know what's going on. And even
shout out to the Nerd Soup podcast, by the way. Also, that was that's aged badly because I'm pretty sure Nash from Nerd Soup didn't watch beyond episode 1, even though he liked the show. But Nerd Soup also inspired me to do, as well as Glidus and so on. Nerd Soup definitely inspired me to make YouTube videos they do reviews of all kind of stuff, but sort of their bread and butter, what made them famous, is talking about Game of Thrones, and they have a revisited series I'd recommend. Check out Nerd Soup Game of Thrones Revisited. It's Aaron and Bo chatting about all the episodes, and in between clips of the show they have like little animations where Bo is an alien cricket thing, I'm not sure, and Aaron is a monkey. And I kind of thought, oh cool, fun little cute, easy, cheap animation they're doing. I could replicate that in some way. So, inspiration from everywhere. But yeah, shout out to Nerd Soup.
Even those who actively despise the original show and wanted it to fail, even they're loving it. I think a large part of this is in the characters. In just 2 episodes, we have a likeable protagonist that the fans are falling for in Rhaenyra, a slimy antagonist that the fans already hate, and the wildcard. Daemon's sort of become the Tyrion of the show. Not in terms of writing or character, they're completely different characters, but in the sense that he's the one the fans want to see more of. So, anything else? Oh yeah, the nerdy book dialogue. Mine own, Mum is fast, I do love it. Book fans are happy, show fans don't give a fuck. Everyone wins, apart from the soccer mums, I guess. That being said,
sorry about the plane going overhead.
We'll throw a fucking brick through the TV screen if Rhaenyra calls Daemon her nuncle. Next episode looks like
we haven't heard nuncle so far. Fortunately, we haven't heard nuncle.
Of travelling or some hunt or something, as well as the War in the Stepstones, which isn't expanded much in Fire and Blood, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with Cragger's Crab Feeder. They've given him an interesting look, despite being a Prince Admiral, he looks very ramshackle and ragged. Apparently his mask is a son of the Harpy mask, and he has grayscale, so he's this well-travelled man who steals things from other ships and has a makeshift outfit, which is a cool idea, and he does look cool, but the man's a prince. We see Aegon in the next time trailer, and he looks 1, 2, 3, I don't understand ages. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with that plot point, because Viserys not having a son was such a big part of the first episode, and then having a time skip, and he has a son, he's had a son for a couple of years now. Anyway, thank you for watching, don't forget to like and
laughing with your whores and your leg spittles.
Subscribe. I will be trying to release breakdown videos.
Alright, let's jump onto episode. So I think there's a big jump in quality between my episode 1 and episode 2 review. In episode 2, I actually had clips from the show. Okay, let me see. Does this include the dragon? Do I still do the Dragon Siege shtick? Let me slow down just for this intro. Episode 3 review. Hello, my Dragon Seeds. Welcome to Fantasy Haven. I keep doing it.
This is my spoiler review of the 2nd episode of House of the Dragon, 2nd of his name, of the House of the Dragon. This review will delve into book spoilers.
That's one hell of a beat.
3 for 3, huh? Not too shabby. Episode 3 is yet another great episode. If we can be cliché and divide Game of Thrones into 2 halves, 2nd of his name takes the best parts of both. The fascinating character work and dialogue of the early seasons, with the high-budget battle scenes of the later seasons.
See, episode 3 is a mixed bag. Some people really liked it, some people really didn't. I remember episode 3 was like the one where lots of people were like, yeah, no, the show's boring or nonsensical. Which I never got. I didn't find episode 3 boring at all, but some people really didn't like episode 3. It's quite interesting.
The first 2 episodes were basically a 2-hour prologue.
Right, turn this down a bit.
Setting up the grand chessboard that is the Dance of the Dragons. This week we saw some knights moving into new positions, a few pawns added to the board, Matt Smith placing his king right next to a rook, and I don't have a clue where this chess metaphor is going. Now that we've established this period of Targaryen rule...
Wait.
This week we saw some knights moving into new positions, a few pawns added to the board, Matt Smith placing his king right next to a rook, and I don't have a clue where this chess metaphor is going. Now that we've established this period of Targaryen rule, it's fun to see the world beginning to breathe and expand. Westeros is beginning to feel alive again, with countless lords and ladies and knights milling about in the background, giving the episode a great sense of scale. The later seasons of GOT cut away at all of these side characters and extras, leaving the show feeling empty and oddly small. So it's been 3 years, which is a bigger time skip than I was expecting. I love how they're aging the characters up ever so slightly. Viserys' hairline is running away faster than Daemon runs towards certain death. Rhaenyra has embraced her moody teenage phase, and Alicent's newfound confidence, as well as her new makeup and costume, has me believing that yes, she's grown up into a 17-year-old. This is a
That's quite good. Honestly, some of this writing is quite good. If I do say so myself, if I do blow my own horn. I say Viserys' hairline is running away faster than Daemon running towards the crab feed or whatever I said. Yeah, I like that. I see, not everyone picked up on that kind of stuff, but I always paid attention to the hair and the makeup and how they try to age people up, because they do age people up subtly. It's too subtly. But yeah, in episode 3, his wig, Paddy's wig is further back than it is in episode 1 and 2. Like it's sort of thinning.
Hairline is running away faster than Daemon runs towards certain death. Rhaenyra has embraced her moody teenage phase, and Alicent's newfound confidence, as well as her new makeup and costume, has me believing that yes, she's grown up into a 17-year-old. This is
Emily Carey, like genuinely in that first a couple of episodes, you can buy that that's like a 15-year-old or whatever, and then the way they dress her and give her makeup and the way she acts in episode 3, it's like she does seem like she's gone into her late teens / early adulthood. Oh,
A big episode for our Targaryen trio. Big surprise. Viserys is holding a grand hunt to preemptively mock Bobby B 200 years in advance, and he looks like a man who's slowly being crushed by stress and responsibility. Surrounding him are sycophants and political vultures. Lord Jason Lannister wants to wed Rhaenyra, Otto wants Rhaenyra to wed Aegon, and pretty much everyone assumes that Aegon is now effectively the heir, if not officially. Viserys drowns his sorrow in wine like all great kings. His standout moment this episode has to be his emotional breakdown to Alicent, lamenting the tensions and difficulties he's caused by naming Rhaenyra as his heir. It's so fascinating what they've done with his character. In Fire and Blood, Viserys names Rhaenyra out of unconditional love, and that's that. Having this Viserys be so conflicted about his decision adds so many layers of complexity and vulnerability to him. He seems torn between grief and regret over Emma's death, which drives his support for Rhaenyra's claim, and the power of prophecy, which tempts him to fulfill his destiny and name Aegon as his heir. The symbolism behind the white stag as a sign of royal portent, inspired by actual medieval English history.
Yeah. I learned that after the episode came out. I don't know where I saw it, but yeah, this was the royal badge of King Richard II. It was a white heart with golden antlers and a crown around the neck, which no doubt inspired the Baratheon sigil of the crowned stag. But yeah, it was a sign of royal portent.
History added a level of mythology and culture I didn't expect to see. It makes perfect sense why a prophecy-obsessed king would place genuine importance on this beast. Kill the white stag, Boris Johnson becomes the heir. Simple. Meanwhile, Ray gets angsty over her tenuous position and storms off. We get a fun road trip with Kristen Cole, who thankfully doesn't wear his goofy helmet this episode. The cake jibe to Lady Redwine contrasts her gif-worthy episode 1 comment about cake, showing that she is growing to accept the responsibility of her new position, and is fearful of losing it. But Rhaenyra is not some perfect princess. In fact, she's very self-pitying in this episode. Kristen brings her down to earth, letting...
It's interesting that, when I get tired of adding in the show clips, it then just cuts to, my character in front of the House of the Dragon logo, whereas nowadays I have, when I'm having an aside, I have my Haven character sort of lean in from the corner and move around a bit like he's speaking.
Her know just how lucky she is to be a royal, and the responsibility that comes with it. After all, she elevated a commoner like him to the Kingsguard. I wanted to see more of Kristen this episode. He's still a very mysterious character. Perhaps his turn to incel darkness is going to be portrayed as a shocker, but I wanted to find out more about him, especially his Dornish heritage. It hasn't been brought up since. I do like that they're establishing a friendship. It remains to be seen just how their falling out occurs. The ancestor of Bobby B's murderer tries to slay yet another royal, and Rhaenyra
The ancestor of Bobby B's murderer.
Her anger out. Later in the episode she sees the white heart, but I don't think it symbolises her being the rightful heir because, it's just a deer, it's meant to be bullshit. No, it's her response to the animal that's important. She can be ruthless and violent when under threat, but will not go out of her way to harm something. It's great to see new characters this episode. I'd assumed Lord Hightower was going to be a cameo, but no, here he is, bossing Otto around. Otto, like Daemon and Rhaenyra and Corlys, must fight for his position and his power. Hobart is delightfully smug and cringe in this episode. He makes Otto seem likeable. The Lannister twins, played by Big Hugh, are a nice treat. I like the stark contrast between the serious, anxious Tyland and the arrogant, self-assured Jason. We also meet Harwin and Larys, although their introduction is a bit lacking. The camera doesn't really take time to properly focus on them, and I wouldn't be surprised if average viewers won't remember them even being in this episode. Larys...
See... Oh wait, no, I think I go on... I'm about to make a point, but I think I go on to make that point right now.
Harvesting some data from the Gossiping Ladies was fun, but Harwin sort of disappeared into the background. Daemon...
Okay, I didn't quite make that point. I didn't make the point I thought I made in this video. So basically, yeah, the thing with Game of Thrones, when they introduce a side character, you immediately remember them, because you get a memorable character actor, you give them some screen time, you give them a memorable line, boom, they're in your head. House of the Dragon was great at many things, but I think it was quite weak at establishing these side characters, I like, the Strongs, there wasn't a proper, here's a shot of the characters, soak them in, they're going to say something, they're going to interact with the main character, okay, their faces if not their names. Preferably their names as well. But this was you see Harwin and Larys, clapping, and then it cuts away, and then you see Harwin holding onto the heart later on, and it cuts away, and it's most viewers don't know that Larys and Harwin were even in episode 3. Hell, the majority of viewers, I would say, think Harwin was a new character that was only introduced in episode 6 to be killed off. And Larys, lots of people thought Larys first appeared in episode 5, even though he was in this one. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Larys having an earlier subtle entrance that other viewers didn't pick up on, and then they picked up on it on a rewatch. That's fine, because that fits Larys' character. But I think for the council members and for Harwin and all these characters, there wasn't a good enough job of establishing just this is the character, this is who they are, this is their personality, remember them. I think a lot of it was the camera. The camera just didn't focus. Even in council scenes, characters would talk, and then the camera would focus on one of the main characters, one of the main actors' reaction to what was being said. It was no, there are so many characters sitting around this table. Show the person who's talking so that the casual viewers can work out who that is. All I'm saying is Ironrod is not on screen enough, and I stan Ironrod. I stan him.
It was fun, but Harwin sort of disappeared into the background. Vaemond was lots of fun. We are losing! His discontent with Daemon and proclivity to stir shit up is probably foreshadowing the part from Fire and Blood where he tries to become Corlys's heir by claiming Rhaenyra's kids to be bastards. They made them brothers instead of cousins in this show to streamline things, I imagine. Also, Laenor has had an utter glow-up. Holy seahorse. His Master of Complaints insult shouldn't have worked, but for some reason it made me laugh, I don't know why. Nice to see Sea Smoke as well.
That was funny. I don't think the young Laenor was the best actor ever, but when he was like... When he called Vaemond Master of Complaints, I was like, yo, we kind of got him with that one. You know what I'm saying? You kind of roasted him there. But yeah, it is kind of ridiculous that this takes place. What was it? 3 years after episode... 3 years and 1... Was it 3 years and 6 months after episode 1? And in episode 1, Laenor is like a child. And in this, I guess he's meant to be a teenager, but he's just like a young adult. He's kind of like...
Really? Although I think the script should have introduced his dragon riding abilities earlier, even if it was just a line of dialogue. Speaking of the Stepstones, I have mixed opinions. Well, that's not true. It's mostly positive. The battle scene is fun, the fighting's awesome. It just doesn't make much sense. How are the Velaryons losing? I get that the Triarchy men are hiding in caves and they're using guerrilla tactics and so on, but they're living on islands. Just cut them off. Starve them out. How has this taken 3 years? I would understand if it were a stalemate. The Triarchy constantly sending new men, one side takes an island, the other side snatches back lost territory, it becomes a total mess. But how is Corlys actively losing? How are they running out of supplies?
Yeah, I don't think the writers knew. I don't think the writers really cared that much. It's kind of ridiculous. It's like we're losing this war. It's like, how are you losing a war? Right, you have a giant powerful navy. You're island hopping. Yeah, sure, you're up against a powerful navy and so on. But you also have you have 2 dragons. You shouldn't be losing this. You can just starve out the Triarchy. If any Triarchy ships come to help the Triarchy soldiers who are on the islands, boom, the dragons burn them. Done. Starve them out in a few weeks. And again, I could have accepted a stalemate. Like, we've been doing this for so long and now it's a stalemate. But no, it's like, we're losing. How are you losing to the Triarchy? You have 2 dragons. Oh, it's annoying.
Thing is, I don't care too much. It's only episode 3, it's not been built up much, and it's not a very consequential war. It exists as dumb, fun spectacle, and a vehicle for Corlys and Daemon's characters. I have issues with the Battle of the Bastards being logical because it's such an important story moment. This isn't, it's just fun. Would I prefer a more logical set of circumstances? Yeah.
Who else is hype for Glidus' inevitable and eventual piss take for, what's it called? Oh yes, is it? Yeah, it's called Battle of the Bastards. I keep forgetting that the episode's literally called that, not just the event. Who's hyped for the Battle of the Bastards piss take from Glidus? That would be fun.
Yes. Would I prefer some actual tactics in my medieval fantasy show? Yes. The Crab Feeder sending all of his army out just to kill the wounded Daemon, only to be surprised by a sudden Velaryon army and Sea Smoke? Yeah, kind of random. Oh, some people wondered why Rhaenys isn't riding Meleys into battle, but I get it. I'm pretty sure in Fire and Blood, Corlys doesn't want Rhaenys to fly into battle, so he probably forbade her from joining the Stepstones War. I wonder if this will be brought up in a future episode.
See, that kind of feels like cope, in retrospect. Being like, oh no, Rhaenys isn't in the Stepstones War, but that's because Corlys doesn't like her going out and riding drag. Yeah, that's kind of a weak defense. I think it would have been cooler. It was probably just a budget reason.
Does not speak for the last portion of the episode, which I didn't even notice on my first watch. His facial expressions and body language says everything. The fact that he goes on this suicide charge, choosing to face victory or death instead of letting his brother snatch the glory from him, says everything you need to know about this unstable, proud, bloodthirsty prince. At first I was really disappointed with the Crab Feeder's death. In Fire and Blood he gets beheaded in a 1-to.
This does interest me. Like, again, it's not a big deal. Crab Feeder's not a huge character. But, like, it's interesting that they skipped what could have been, like, a cool fight scene with, like, a big imposing Prince Admiral and Daemon, and instead they made the Drahar, like, this sort of, like, ramshackle, small, skinny, creepy guy who runs away and dies off screen. It's like, it's just interesting that they went that route. That we didn't get, like, a cool fight scene. And even just visually, the way the Crab Feeder looks is just... he's his own character, and it's cool, but it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting, like, this guy, like a big, imposing, Myrish Prince Admiral. It'll be interesting to, like, ask Ryan Condor why he went that direction in terms of the Crab Feeder. Also, shout out to, like, all the casual viewers thinking the Crab Feeder was going to be, like, the big villain of House of the Dragon. People were like, yo, this is the new Night King. It's the Crab Feeder. And in reviews and stuff, people kept calling him the Crab King by accident. And they were like, yo, the Crab King. He's going to be the new Night King. He looks so epic. He's nailing people to poles in the sea. And it's like, just dies in one episode.
Cool. But over time, I've actually grown to like it. In the inside the episode, they spoke about rebirth. Rhaenyra ends the episode, covered in the blood of a beast she slew in self-defense. Daemon is covered in the blood of his nemesis at the climax of a war. Viserys struggles to kill a defenseless creature while the sycophants applaud him, and he promises Rhaenyra she will not be supplanted as heir. Thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button to see more of...
Okay. You know, these reviews aren't that bad. I'm just saying it. They're not that bad. The scripts are pretty good. The usage of clips is getting better. Pacing's getting better. Just for the intro, let me go back to regular speed. Let's check out the episode 4 review. This was the spicy episode. This is a good one. This one was a good one.
Hot D continues to throw out banger after banger after banger. This review will contain spoilers for Fire and Blood.
Ooh. This one's... The audio for this sounds especially like ear rapey, doesn't it? I don't know why. Let's speed the boy up.
This is my favourite episode so far. The show has really come into its own. It really did feel like early Game of Thrones with rich dialogue and character work and pretty intriguing setup for future events. Yeah.
It's funny, this has turned into just, like, all of us reminiscing about House of the Dragon, Season 1. I thought this would be me roasting my videos, but, like, they're not actually as bad as I remember. And I'm making some good points, so instead I'm just talking about Hot D.
The episode takes its time. It doesn't need to rush. It doesn't have any action. We're just following these fascinating characters as they discover more about themselves and the world around them. There was something different about the direction of this episode, especially in the pleasure house. There were plenty of close-ups and low shots, making you feel like you truly were watching from Rhaenyra's perspective. The brothels in Game of Thrones always felt gross and lifeless, while this felt dangerous, seedy, scary, enticing. Sex is at the heart of this episode, but it's not fulfilling some meaningless HBO quota. Actually, it probably is. But it didn't feel like it. Rhaenyra is a rebel who chafes against the restrictions society has placed on her for being a...
One thing I will say, because I was thinking about... I don't show any sexy stuff in this episode, in this video, but... Lots of people who've reviewed this show and Game of Thrones get into so much trouble with copyright, even though obviously reviews and parody and memes and so on is all transformative in nature, but HBO and other studios like to be dicks, right? So like Glidus is constantly getting copyright struck on his videos, even, you know, and then he appeals it and usually it's successful, I believe, but the initial strike stops you from getting a lot of money from, you know, the initial release of the video, which is bullshit. And Quinn told me that I think he posted 1 or 2 videos that actually had clips from the show, but they were demonetized, or they were like literally claimed and taken down because it had clips from the show, and then he was like, okay, I'm not going to bother. I haven't had that issue at all. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, HBO are leaving me alone for some reason. HBO are fine with me. Like, all of my reviews, my best episode of Hot D, my worst episode of Hot D, HBO just ignoring them. Weirdly enough, they're like, yeah, no, we're not going to strike you. It's probably because they're not big enough, I guess. My videos aren't large enough for that, but then Quinn's videos weren't large enough for that, so I don't know why he got a claim and I didn't. I don't know. Anyway.
A woman, and Daemon opens her eyes to sex as an act of pleasure, taken by those who want it. This worldview, as well as her comments about men facing no consequences for siring bastards, is setting the groundwork for when Rhaenyra has 3 strong boys of her own. Her scene with Daemon, who is clearly grooming her, is intercut with Viserys and Alicent. The second montage of the season, and almost as effective as the first. Pleasure,
why did I need to pause there? I didn't need to pause there.
And taboo temptation versus cold, uncomfortable duty. The whole situation is very ambiguous in Fire and Blood. It looks like they've mixed the stories together. Rhaenyra almost does the deed with Daemon, and then actually does the deed with Kristen, and bumps into Harwin for good measure. On that note, let me just reel back a second. Ryan Condal. Give Harwin some love. He's barely in episode 3, has like 1 line this episode. Casual fans don't know who the hell he is. Show this man some respect. He's the ancestor of this dude after all, right? That was confirmed, right? Right. Anyway, this all helps to expand Rhaenyra and Daemon's perverse relationship, as well as preparing Kristen Cole for his monster.
Isn't it wild that Qyburn is like, yo, I'm going to pretend some random dude named after a dead extinct house has joined the Kingsguard? Like, is no one like Sir Robert Strong? Strong is in House Strong, the dead house? Where did you come from? Who accepted him? Who accepted Robert Strong? Anyway.
Monstrous journey in the future. There's been plenty of debate surrounding the sex scenes. For me, Rhaenyra's 18, but she's still being groomed by her uncle. That's not good. It's a controversial take, I know. Slightly less dark than her being 14 in Fire and Blood. Holy shit. Alicent is suffering marital rape.
Yeah, someone's saying Quinn's large. Yeah, no, Quinn is a big channel now. I mean, he wasn't. We're back when he did a couple of videos with, unless I'm misremembering, like back when he did a couple of videos with clips in them, and then HBO like took them down or something. I don't know.
She's doing something she doesn't want to do for the sake of duty and expectation, while Viserys wrongfully assumes that she's fine with it. But what about Christmas Cole? Well, there's definitely a power imbalance at play, but it's portrayed as pretty consensual. Kristen is reluctant and torn over breaking his vows, but the Targusi proved to be too strong. Might be misreading it, but I get the sense that Kristen
Classic Haven line. Let's get that Let's get that again.
Targaryen proved to be too strong. Might be misreading it, but pretty consensual. Kristen is reluctant and torn over breaking his vows, but the Targaryen proved to be too strong. Might be misreading it, but I get the sense that Kristen has a genuine romantic interest in Rhaenyra, while she was just pent up and wanted some big C. I do appreciate how long
some big C. Rhaenyra wanted the C. She wanted the double C.
This moment was, so they didn't just slam cut to Kristen without his armor on. Fire and Blood deals with conflicting sources, and while the show mostly presents an objective view...
I love how everyone was, like, bringing a sort of complex nuance discussion about the sex scene between Rhaenyra and Kristen, being like, is it consensual? Does she, there's obviously a power imbalance, but there's also an age imbalance that goes the other way, and do we see it as the R word, or is it, or are we misinterpreting it, blah, blah, blah. And then my take on the scene is, Kristen wanted that Targaryen, and Rhaenyra wanted the big C. That's what you get, nuance only from Fantasy Haven.
Of events. I appreciate the ambiguity afforded to many scenes. Why did Daemon storm off? Was it guilt? Guilt for betraying Viserys or grooming Rhaenyra? Or could he just not get it up? And why? Because Rhaenyra was enjoying herself and showing agency, as they said in Inside the Episode? Why does Mysaria rat out Daemon? Are they working together, or is Mysaria taking revenge? I love all these questions being thrown at the audience. I personally think it's the former regarding Mysaria. I don't think Daemon concocted some big plan. He just acts chaotically and exploits the consequences. He gets found out and instead of denying it, asks to marry Rhaenyra. So what else is in this episode? Well, the intro of Storm's End was lots of fun. At first I was wondering why there were so many Riverland houses visiting Storm's End.
Oh yeah, this is a weird bit when they just have like a member of House Mud lining up. Like it's a dead house. It's a completely dead, extinct house of former kings, and there's just someone like pretending to be from House Mud, just like lining up like, yeah, marry me, Rhaenyra, marry me. It's like someone claiming to be like 18th in line to the throne of Afghanistan, being like, yeah. No, I'm being serious, bro. Also, there's a Tully back here. There's a Frey, although this is the least Frey-looking Frey I've ever seen. Considering how they portray Freys in Game of Thrones as sort of like pale, skeletal Weasley. And I love how there's just like some dude. There's just like some tan dude just chilling like, yeah, I'm a Frey. What of it? Should he be in my Every Frey Explained video? Maybe he should be. Maybe he's the key to all of this.
I think it's because they wanted the Blackwood versus Bracken duel, and they also had an actor for Borman Baratheon already, as well as a set for Storm's End, apparently. Interesting. I hope we see a certain confrontation at the end of this season. I suppose in these circumstances it makes sense to have the Riverland houses go to Storm's End instead of, building a River Run set and casting a Tully for one scene. I definitely wasn't expecting a Blackwood versus Bracken reference in the show, so that was a great surprise. Interesting that they changed their names. Perhaps they're not yet sure whether this kid will become Lord Blackwood or merely a brother of Lord Samwell in Fire and Blood, so I suppose they might not want their future casting decisions restricted by the physical appearance of a child in one scene. Also, shout out to my boys in House Mud. They dragged their way out of extinction just to try and marry Rhaenyra. Seriously, why are they there? Daemon's return was pretty cool. Not as cool as in the book.
Oh, people are excited for the Frey. Was that Forest Frey? I don't think that was... Yeah, no, it can't be, because Forest Frey is too, He's meant to be a young man, right? So him being like a middle-aged dude when Rhaenyra was a teenager, that's probably not Forest. That's probably... Because we may see Forest in the show. So I think that's just meant to... That's probably Forest's dad or something. That's just a Frey. Speaking of, I'll use this pause in the video to say to all of you guys, if you would like to join my Every Frey Explained pyramid scheme, feel free to sign up. Basically, what happens is you sign up, and I will give you a chunk of the work to get done, right? A chunk of the animation to do for me, because it's a big video. If you're able to find people and offload the animation work to them, that's good. They can also find people and offload it to them. You will get a cut of the profit from my video, but obviously I will keep most of it, and the money you earn you do have to spend on hiring people under you. But eventually we will get the Frey video done. So yeah, I'll add it in the description later. Join the Every Frey Explained pyramid, and the video will be coming out soon. There we go. Okay, let's carry on the video. A solid 5 people just left the stream because I said that. They're aware. They know I'm joking, right? What did they think I was doing? Actually, promoting something.
where he's circling above a tournament, but I understand tournaments are complicated and expensive. Also, Daemon's fresh trim, maybe the best wig in the show. I always complain about tugs all having long hair, and people say, oh, that's because short wigs suck and you don't want the actor to bleach their hair. Well, look at this wig. Pretty short, one of the best.
Yeah, the Targ wigs were terrible. And yet somehow Daemon's short wig didn't look too bad. And that annoyed me because it's like every single Targaryen has long hair in the show and in Hot Day and Game of Thrones. And it's like a lot of Targaryens from Fire and Blood are shown as having shorter hair. And I think the Valyrian features are cooler when the hair is short than when it's long. And yet, all we see is long hair. And everyone always came up with the excuse of, oh, well, because you need long hair because you can't do short hair, because short hair wigs are more difficult to look realistic. But we got a short hair Daemon wig. Like, come on.
The play felt like a loving nod to the one Are You Watching in Season 6. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. It was cool to learn that years passed by having Aegon be referred to as 3 years old. That was nice and subtle. I don't think the main performer really sold it. I know, something about his performance or his voice just didn't work for me. I also think there's way too much circular reasoning in this show surrounding the woman issue. Rhaenyra can't take the throne because she's a woman, and because...
I think I genuinely lost, 5 viewers because they thought I was promoting a House Frey pyramid scheme. It's the only way the video's coming out, fellas. Okay, this is an interesting take I'm about to have here. Let me know if you agree with this one. I'll even slow this one down.
I think there's way too much performance or his old. That was nice and subtle. I don't think the main performer really sold it. I know, something about his performance or his voice just didn't work for me. I also think there's way too much circular reasoning in this show surrounding the woman issue. Rhaenyra can't take the throne because she's a woman, and because she's a woman she has no cock, she can't take the throne. Sometimes the characters talk like modern people mocking the medieval worldview, as opposed to characters that have been raised in this medieval world. I want to hear the actual, if absurd, reason behind their sexist attitudes instead of just Aegon better because penis. Otto...
Yeah, that's a genuine issue I had, that the actual discussion around why it's important for a king to take over instead of a queen is reduced to, well, Rhaenyra is a woman, Aegon has a cock. He's got a cock, so he needs the throne. And it didn't come across as people in medieval times with medieval attitudes pushing their worldview. It came across as modern day characters with a modern day perspective pretending to be medieval, where it's oh, well, Aegon has a penis, so he should be the king. It's okay, sure. But yeah. Don't know if anyone agrees. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Be cool to see different takes there. Cock jokes PTSD. The only cock joke we got in the whole show was the street performers. It gave me Tyrion flashbacks. Well, someone said I'm on duty right now, standing sentry, and nobody here has any idea I'm listening to this specific topic. What's your job, bro? I hope you're like a cop. I hope you're a police officer, or you're like a SWAT officer or something. And everyone's stay alert, and you're just listening to me circle jerking about my own videos from a year ago.
Fired. It was cool to see his mask slip. I've never seen him look so shook. In Fire and Blood, he gets booted for pushing the succession too much, and it's similar here, but Rhaenyra delivers the killing blow. I'm still a bit confused by Viserys' speech about his father. Is he implying that Balon was murdered by Otto, so Otto could become Hand? That doesn't make any sense. I don't get that. What's he hinting at? Maybe I'm just being dumb. The episode ends with Plan T being delivered. I bet no one's made that joke before. This made me wonder, what if Rhaenyra didn't drink the tea? What if Jacaerys is Criston Cole's son, and the other two are Harwin's sons, and then Criston joins the Greens, and he's actually fighting against his own... Oh God, Ryan, have mercy.
Ryan, no, good, Ryan.
Oh yes, prophecy shit. Stop putting it in the show.
That was a genuine theory that Jacaerys, that our boy Jace the Ace was gonna be was gonna be the bastard son of Criston and Rhaenyra after this moment, and then the other two kids would be Harwins, and there'd be a weird kind of. But yeah, no, that's pretty much confirmed after the time skip that they are all Harwins. But some people were basing that on the fact that Jace's actor has curly hair, and Criston's hair is kind of curly, but then Harwin's hair is curly, so that doesn't really make sense. Armed security and bounty hunter. What the fuck? What do you mean you're a bounty hunter? What? Wait, you're a bounty hunter and you're listening to my
my stream, my Song of Ice and Fire stream. Fair enough. I tell you what, mate. If anyone ever puts out a bounty on Fantasy Haven, I hope you can, you can scrap that. You can put that assignment under the in the shredder or in the bin. Just do a little favour for me. Okay.
Yeah. The Prince that was promised was an abandoned fetus of an idea in Season 7 that didn't come to fruition in Season 8. Why reference it? Hot D is starting to feel like a prequel for a parallel universe Game of Thrones that actually ended well. Overall, best episode yet. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, like and subscribe for more, and check out my other videos. See
Cool.
you.
Okay. Yeah, let's jump into episode 5 then.
Hello, my...
Boombler is back, and his heart is perfectly okay. Everyone, put a celebration emoji in the chat, because Boombler's heart is okay. He was at the doctor's and now he's made it to the stream. Celebration emojis, everyone. Okay, let's continue. We are now on to episode 5.
Hello, my Dragon Seeds. Welcome to Fantasy Haven.
Hello, my dragon seeds. I'm sticking with it.
This review will contain spoilers for Fire and Blood. Let's jump straight to the feast, shall we? Westerosi weddings. We've got chicken, dancing, and mushrooms. House for life.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna have this as at normal speed, because I think there's a distinct difference between my previous reviews and in episode 5 onwards. Like episode 1 is its own, thing where everything is still and nothing's moving. Then episode 2 to 4 reviews, I've got some actual clips from the show. Episode 5 onwards is where I throw in more kind of meme edits and stuff. So I'm gonna have this at a regular speed.
Hello, my Dragon Seeds. Welcome to Fantasy Haven. This review will contain spoilers for Fire and Blood.
That hard cut though.
Let's jump straight to the feast, shall we? Westerosi weddings. We've got chicken, dancing, and mushrooms. House Velaryon must have...
Chicken, dancing, and mushrooms. This is the mushroom we got. Okay, this is my hot take. I think we should have had mushroom in the show. And that doesn't sound like it's a hot take, but pretty much everyone is like, no, mushroom wouldn't work because it would be offensive to have a little person who's just being a horny, funny jester. And it's like, yeah, but that's a character he's playing. As in, as a jester, he is playing that role. Obviously, mushroom in the books, I think it's more than just his role as a fool. I think that's his personality, is being a bit of a salacious gossiper and rumour monger. But I think you could have had a respectful portrayal of Mushroom as like a really savvy, intelligent little person who, goes out as a dwarf jester and acts like as a pervy weirdo and so on in character because that's their job,
Things. We've got chicken, dancing, and mushrooms. House Velaryon must have seen that picture of Otto with the shades because they came with drip. Seriously, those costumes are...
That's probably the best moment so far. Who remembers that? The wide Putin meme. Would have been too risky. No, I don't think it would have been risky. Some people were saying, yeah, isn't that just Tyrion? Well, Tyrion's massively toned down in the show, remember? But you could have had someone with dwarfism, acting as a salacious jester. But that's like them playing a role within the world. So you have like Mushroom the Fool, and then you have the man behind Mushroom, John or something, whatever his name is, who's like a friend of Rhaenyra, and you could make that work. I feel like, yeah. Also, considering how rushed the season was, I don't know where you'd fit him exactly, but I think he could have been a cool character. Yes, that is another genuine criticism, which is people would just be like, oh, it's Tyrion again, because it's a witty, smart dwarf. And to be fair, all the dwarves George R. R. Martin writes do seem to be witty, intelligent, pervy dwarves, They're all kind of the same.
They're so gorgeous. The tension creeping up throughout the feast was very unnerving. Daemon's never felt more dangerous.
Give it up for Wide Lanor, by the way. Wide Lanor is the meme that
should have been if I were a bigger channel. White Laynor. Thank you for the super chat from Boombler, who says, "Here, have some money, you British prince. I'm not dying of any heart disease, so I can celebrate. Buy yourself something nice." Thank you, Boombler, for the super chat. That is very nice of you, and I'm so happy that everything is okay with you health-wise. And thank you for joining the stream. And if anyone else has any, nice comments or questions, or just wants me to say something dumb, send in a super chat, and it helps support the channel. Yeah.
Seriously, those costumes are so gorgeous. The tension creeping up throughout the feast was very unnerving. Daemon's never felt
Oh yeah, sorry about the ear rape, by the way.
more dangerous than he did this episode. The way he murders Rhea Royce at the beginning, how he swaggers into the hall, how he speaks to...
That, weirdly enough, that might be my favourite Daemon moment of the show, is in episode 5 of the wedding, where he just swaggers in late. I like that.
Gerald and outright tries to kiss Rhaenyra. We had glances and glares, flirting, confrontations, all while Viserys is trying not to collapse into a puddle.
Why did the box for flirting have Kristen beating up Joffrey? God damn it.
We had glances and
Young Haven was on something else, wasn't he? He was memeing about. He was shitposting. This is before I got all professional and boring.
Rhaenyra. We had glances and glares, flirting, confrontations, all while Viserys is trying not to collapse into a puddle.
Bring me one of those
Lobsters.
Interesting how he...
Yeah. This is the shitpost review. This is where I started having more fun with it.
previous speech...
We got a fun little a cursed Viserys, Sandor Clegane, Jordan Peterson mix-up. The mashup of the ages.
Speech about wanting to have been tested is contrasted with this moment. Everything is going to shit, and he's just standing there helplessly, blood dripping from his nose. I have mixed opinions about the climax of this episode. I liked how the tension exploded into a brawl, but...
Okay, I see you, Boomler. Boomler said, "I'm paying Haven money so I can insult him all I want, and Haven can't do anything about it." This is true. He's one of my patrons. He's on the patron Discord. The amount of times he just insults me. He insults the way I look when I post pictures of myself. And I can do nothing, because I'm his bitch. He's giving me money monthly. What am I going to do? Fight back? No. All my patrons, they're my bosses. They're my sugar daddies and mummies. I've got to do whatever they tell me to. And that is terrifying. But that's the life of a YouTuber. Bring me one of those lobsters.
But it reminded me way too much of episode 1, where all those knights suddenly started randomly murdering each other without any restrictions. Like, Kristen attacks Joffrey off-screen, and somehow that triggers a massive brawl in the middle of the throne room. Laenor gets pushed, people are decking each other. Even Lionel gestures to Harwin like, "Go on, son, save Rhaenyra from the chaos," and Harwin just leaps into the action and starts punching people.
Yeah, this is the, if the first big what the fuck moment of the show was the weird melee fighting and everyone dying in the tournament, the second big what the fuck moment was the Kristen Cole. Kristen Cole snapping at Joffrey, murdering him, surviving, and not being executed, and there being no, explanation for it, and that causing a massive brawl to take place. That's number 2. That was, the second thing.
Harwin, son, just push through. Literally, just push through. You don't have to punch anyone, just push. I think this scenario would have made more sense if a general fight had broken out and then during the chaos Kristen attacks Joffrey without anyone noticing. You could play up tensions between the Lannisters, the Hightowers, the Valerians. Jason didn't get to marry Rhaenyra, so his men might be pissed.
Shout out to the drip. Whew. Also, oh my god, a Lannister wearing red. Imagine that. Colours. Oh, even though, the filter does mute the colours in the show, but he's wearing red and gold. That's all we wanted. Nobles wearing colourful clothing that correlates with their sigil.
Otto got fired, so the Hightowers might be pissed. Both houses might despise the Velaryons for being up-jumped minor lords who overtook their wealth in a single generation. So what about...
So that was me doing my what if I were smarter than the showrunners thing that all reviewers do. But the point I was making now is Thank you, Plane, for interrupting me yet again. New batch of prisoners, boys. Yeah, the point I was making is that, you know, you have Hightowers and Lannisters at the wedding and Targaryens and all kind of groups of people that might have... Oh, and Velaryons. All kind of groups that might be pissed off with each other. And then, like, the tension could snap in a more organic way and, you know, and lead to a natural brawl as opposed to Kristen beats someone up and everyone's just like, fuck it, we're fighting now. And they just go wild, I don't know.
The murder itself. Well, at first I felt a bit disappointed because I didn't fully comprehend why Christmas Cole was committing a hate crime. But now I get it. Kristen loves Rhaenyra and perhaps more than that, he loves his honour. He wants... Christmas Cole was committing a hate crime. But now I...
POV, you are Joffrey Lonmouth.
Get it. Kristen loves Rhaenyra and perhaps more than that, he loves his honour. He wants to run away with her, not just because he loves her, but he wants to save what remains of his honour by starting anew and marrying her. Instead, she wants him to be her paramour, and he realises that he broke his vows for little more than a fling. His position as an honourable knight is all he has to his name, being a commoner of Dornish descent. His confession to Alicent makes it clear he's become...
Yeah, Kristen being Dornish didn't play into anything in the end. They made a big deal out of, he's going to, you know, the cast and call said he's going to be Dornish, and then in the first one, Alicent's like, oh god, he's Dornish. But, like, they never played into anything. I thought that would be part of his kind of, part of his character, you know, on top of the fact that he's common-born and that he's sort of, he's been grinding his way up to be in the Kingsguard with all these other nobles and, you know, to become a famous warrior that, you know, not only am I a commoner, but I'm also, like, part Dornish, and obviously there's xenophobia against the Dornish in Westeros. But no, it was just, like, he just was Dornish. Which I suspect was a probably a quota. I think I reckon what they wanted was a kind of they wanted to fulfill a kind of an HBO quota. So they were like, okay, we've got the Velaryons who we've made black. Let's get a Dornish character because people like Dornish characters from the original show, right? Who can we? Oh, I know Kristen Cole because he's from the Dornish marches in the Stormlands. And the guy who plays Kristen Cole, Fabian Frankel, is part. He's got what heritage? Some sort of Jewish Middle Eastern heritage. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it did seem kind of random him being Dornish, and it would have been I want to see that come into play more. I want him to talk more about the fact that he is Dornish, and growing up in Westeros being Dornish, because otherwise it does just feel like a kind of like a out of touch bunch of like HBO executives being like, oh, throw in a Dornish person because we're so virtuous. It's like, come on, be respectful. Make it part of his character. Maybe they just wanted to rehabilitate the image of Dornish people from Game of Thrones, so they were like, throw in an actual good character so people can forget about the Sand Snakes. By good as in well written, because he is a well written character. There are just moments like the beating up Joffrey and the just one more episode. That's what we needed. I don't get on too much of a tangent, but that's what we needed. We needed 12 episodes, 6 before the time skip, 6 after the time skip. I think episodes 1 to 5 are fine. You could have thrown in an extra, which was the aftermath of the wedding. Rhaenyra and Harwin hooking up, Kristen getting pardoned or whatever, Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship officially shattering. Then you have 6 episodes of post-time skip, during which you split the original episode 6 into 2. So you have maybe one of those episodes ends with Laena Velaryon dying, the other one ends with the Strongs dying in Harrenhal, perhaps.
Suicidal. And he snaps at the wedding when Joffrey inadvertently holds his dishonour over him, inviting him into a sordid arrangement in a way that almost sounded like blackmail. But this whole situation begs the question, how does he get away with it? In Fire and Blood, he kills Joffrey and attorney so it can be called an accident. Here, he beats the groom's friend to death, and then goes to the Godswood to kill himself without being apprehended. I don't know, maybe it should have been more of a duel or something like that. I have the feeling there was a deleted scene in the Godswood between Kristen and Alicent. Apparently the Daemon versus Kristen fight and Emma's death in episode 1 were separate scenes that were later made into a montage. Maybe they did the same thing here, with the Godswood as the penultimate scene and the wedding as the final scene, and they decided to create a montage, so they cut out the Godswood dialogue. I know this isn't going to get...
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of forgot I'd said that. So, yeah, it speaks for itself, but the what's her name? Emma Aaron birth scene was a separate scene from the tournament one, and then in the editing room they had them come together with some music over it, and it created a really powerful, impactful scene. And I was wondering, for this episode, clearly the episode's meant to end on the wedding, but what if there was just going to be a scene of Christian's going to kill himself, but then Alicent comes out and then they have a discussion, and it kind of explains why he doesn't kill himself, or it explains why he's pardoned or whatever. And then we cut to the wedding and then blah blah. But instead they went, okay, the episode needs to be shorter. Let's have another cool montage scene where it's like we're cutting between Kristen about to kill himself and the wedding, and then blah blah blah. I don't know, maybe, but it does feel weird considering how intelligent and knowledgeable and respectful the writers are, like Ryan Condor and so on. It does seem weird that a plot point as big as this would exist, like a plot hole as big as this would exist. Just Kristen just getting away with murdering Joffrey and like punching Laenor, the the prince consort in the face, the future king consort in the face. It's just like, what? Not even a one throwaway line. Okay.
Addressed because the next episode is a large time skip. It's not a massive deal. As an audience member, I can think of an excuse with the information that's been presented to me. Alicent can cover for him. Kristen can claim that Joffrey tried to kill Rhaenyra because he was infatuated with Laenor. After all, he does die with a dagger in his hand. But it's certainly stretching my suspension of disbelief. Nevertheless, it's good setup for why he joins the Greens. For him, Rhaenyra is a temptress who corrupted him, forcing him to break his vows and kill a man. And I'm sure her bastards with Harwin Strong will reinforce his perception of her. Alicent, meanwhile, is his saviour. A truly dutiful and noble woman, worth serving and protecting to restore his honour. Despite some questions I had at the end, I love this episode. It really felt like a mid-season finale or the ending of the prologue of the show. So it was very satisfying to watch with various threads coming together. Alicent's transformation has been great, and I have to shout out Emily Carey. She was definitely overshadowed by Millie Alcock in the early episodes, but she really has shone in this role. Alicent has been lied to by her best friend, a friend who abandons duty in the pursuit of personal pleasure. Unlike Alicent, who makes personal sacrifices for her house and her father. A father who lost his job due to Rhaenyra's actions. A father who insists to his daughter that Rhaenyra will murder her children to secure her position. It's manipulative, but I don't think Otto is lying.
I'm just sitting here watching my own content. It's a good thing that this is my content and not like another YouTube video, because otherwise I would just be like, this would just be a copyright issue. I'd just be streaming someone's video. I'm enjoying it. What can I say? I thought this would be cringe. I'm actually enjoying my own content. Yeah.
Views the world through a twisted Machiavellian lens, so of course he assumes Rhaenyra would do this. Alicent feels betrayed, angry, fearful, perhaps even jealous. It's a great starting point for her journey to becoming Rhaenyra's rival. Her costume evolution has told a story of its own. At first she wears a bluish dress representing her neutrality.
Oh, Haven's talking about fashion, something he knows nothing about.
The innocence, lack of agency. After she gets married, she wears Targaryen red. She is Viserys' wife. This episode she wears both. Her father leaves and she fluctuates between her current position and being that innocent girl again. Yet at the feast she arrives in her green dress, completing the transformation.
Ooh, that was a banger. That was actually quite good. That was quite good. I like that. The blue represents the innocence. The red represents embracing her Targaryen, her role as a Targaryen wife. This episode she fluctuates between them because her father's gone and she's in a state of disarray. And then she solidifies her position as a high tower and she wears green. Oh, whoops.
She is a high tower. She is the queen. She's giving herself agency. Also, people really had a problem with Larys explaining the green thing. Like, I get that some of the dialogue in the first couple episodes was clunky, but this didn't feel forced to me. Larys is a smart one. Harwin's probably a bit dumb. He's sharing some cool information with his brother. I don't know. Oh yeah, Harwin again. Not gonna lie, he might not even survive the next episode. How many viewers are gonna recognise who the fuck he is? He's had no screen time. Brian, why'd you hate Harwin Strong? Speaking of the Strongs, let's look at Larys. In retrospect, I've grown to like...
Oh, okay, no, that's fucking harsh. Hold on. This edit I do with Larys.
Sure. Speaking of the Strongs, let's look at Larys. In retrospect...
That's not fair. That's fucking rude. If you're listening to this, you're not going to know what that was, but that was a rude little picture I inserted there.
I've grown to like his...
I love Larys, and I love the actor Matthew Needham. Just
introduction in episode 1, it does suit the character. His line about the plant thriving in an environment it shouldn't seems like he's making a metaphor about Alicent, but maybe he's talking about himself. A man with a clubfoot, a second son, surviving in this world of physical prowess. I wonder what his motivations are for stirring up shit and forging an alliance with Alicent. He's a very confusing character in the book. I wonder if he'll be given actual motivations for his actions in this series, or if they'll just make his intentions completely ambiguous the entire time, like in Fire and Blood. What else? Well, I really liked Joffrey this episode. It's a shame we didn't see more of him. He was very charismatic and likeable in a dickish way. It's nice to see that he and Laenor have actual characterization.
Joffrey was good. I really liked Joffrey. Don't take that out of context. I really liked him. It's a shame he died so quickly. Again, this is one of those things where this episode maybe could have been a wedding, and then an episode 6 pre-time skip could have been, as well as, Rhaenyra and Harwin and setting up all that stuff. that could have been Kristen hurting Joffrey.
Way.
It's nice as killing Joffrey, not hurting, killing.
See that he and Laenor have actual characterization besides they are gay. He has lots of gay sex. He's scared of blood for some reason. They're gay. They're gay men. Viserys.
Yeah. I was like, oh damn, they're actually there's a gay couple and they're having like a conversation. It's interesting, and like they're showing their love for one another, but they both have actual like character, and they're the characters they have are not stereotypical or eye rolling. They're just like people. Compared to Loras and Renly in the show, who better than the average portrayal of a gay couple on TV, but it's still kind of like, oh, you cut me. How could you do this? I'm scared of blood because I'm gay. And it's like, you're meant to be like a fucking Chad. What are you talking about? Come on.
Reason. They're gay. They're gay men. Viserys talking about his legacy was one of the best scenes. He's not a peacemaker or a peace breaker, so how will history remember him? It's tragic because we know how. As a politically incompetent man, blind to the divisions in his family and partly responsible for the Dance of the Dragons. At this point, I think it's clear that Mellos is incompetent, and his medical malpractice is causing Viserys to become more ill. Mellos has difficulty standing up, and we know from Fire and Blood that Orwyle becomes Grand Maester, so I think Mellos will die during the time skip, and Orwyle will change Viserys' prescription to explain why he's still fucking alive. The episode ends with a rat slurping up some tasty Lonmouth blood. I imagine the increasing display of rats is taking on some thematic importance, a metaphor for the corruption and decay in King's Landing.
A metaphor for corruption and decay, perhaps. But back then I didn't realise the real meaning behind the rats being here, which is obviously that they're all being warged by Larys, the Rat King. Larys the Warg, warging all the rats in King's Landing to spy on everyone. That's a great theory, and I love it in concept, but like I don't actually want it. I don't want Larys to be a warg. I know he's descended from the First Men, and people have theories, but I think he's way more interesting not being a supernatural threat. I think the more supernatural someone is, the least interesting they are, unless they're a sort of legendary esoteric figure like Bloodraven. But Larys, I don't need Larys to be a warg. I'm okay with him just being a dude. But the whole Rat King warg is a fun theory, though.
Corruption and decay in King's Landing. Perhaps also foreshadowing for a certain duo named Blood and Cheese. Final shout out to Millie and Emily for their amazing final performances. Also to Theo Nate, as well as Savannah Stain, whose brief appearance enraptured me.
Oh yeah, Savannah Stain, she was great. Young Laenor. She was fantastic in this episode. I really liked her. And again, speaking of having another episode before the time skip, we missed out on 2 entire Daemon subplots. We missed out on Daemon going to the Vale and being like, going to Jane Arryn like, hey, I want my wife's castle, and Jane Arryn being like, don't you dare set foot in the Vale again, fuck off, and exiling him. And we missed out on Daemon, because they literally mentioned that Laena is betrothed to the Sea Lord of Braavos. We missed out on Daemon starting a duel, or the son of the Sea Lord of Braavos, starting a duel with him and killing him so that he can then marry Laena. Like, that would have been such a great scene. Can you imagine if we had that scene from the book? Imagine he travels to Driftmark and it's like, I'm here to marry your daughter, because, Rhaenyra rejected me. I'm here to marry your daughter. Oh no, Rhaenyra hasn't rejected him, it's more Rhaenyra's married someone. So I'm here to marry your daughter. And they're like, oh, well, she's betrothed to the son of the Sea Lord of Braavos. He's like, oh, that's cool. And he'd like, I don't know, I can imagine him insulting him until the Sea Lord's son like gets angry and takes out his sword. Maybe his like water dancer sword. He's like, don't you talk to me like that. How dare you? And then Daemon's like, shing, and like cuts him up. Turns to Laena, is like, why don't you marry me? Takes out his harp, he's like, I love you, bitch. Ain't never gonna stop loving you, bitch. And then boom. Followed by a sex scene. So HBO should hire me, because I clearly know what I'm doing. I clearly know more than the show. No. But yeah, Savannah Stain was great. I'm not going to talk about her wig, but her performance was great.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content.
Okay, let's move on to... Oh my goodness. Okay, that could get me demonetized. I'm going to move on to episode 6 now, which 8 minutes, cool. So my reviews, they're doing alright. Episode 5 was the best one yet. I think they only get better and better as I get more used to the using clips and throwing in meme edits. And then all of this basically gave me the experience to then make my best episode of Hot D, which is the episode I released, unemployed, no money, 19 subscribers, literally like deep into my overdraft with no money. It was a very bad time for me. And best episode of Hot D is what actually got me some views, and I was like, holy shit, and it pushed me to monetization. So But that's my next. That can be my next anniversary stream. That can be my, like I said, my channel's second birthday is basically the 2nd of January. That's when I officially became like YouTuber as a job. So we can do that in a live stream later. For now, we're going to go through the episodes 1 to 10 reviews. Let's carry on with episode 6. If you're watching and you haven't liked the video, what are you doing, you crazy bastards? Like the video. And, or don't, you don't have to. And subscribe if you haven't. And send in super chats if you have questions or just shit to ask me, or if you want to insult me or get me to read something dumb, go ahead. Okay, I should probably continue the video and not have a teenage boy doing that face for too much longer. Let's go.
Hello, my dragon seeds. Welcome.
Oh wait, no, I'm gonna. Oh, it's the audio different. Hold on. Let's listen to that.
Hello, my dragon seeds. Welcome to Fantasy Haven.
The audio does sound slightly different, doesn't it?
This review will contain spoilers for Fire and Blood, which may spoil the future of the series.
That is David Tennant's stepson. I do a joke about that. I have a thing about that in this video. Okay.
Pretty uneventful episode. Not much happened. Same old stuff as usual, you know.
I sound like I have a bunged up nose in this one. Have I got a different mic? Am I using a different mic? Am I using a different audio thing? That's the official term, audio thing.
Stuff as usual, you know. Wait a minute. Did they recast Kristen Cole? We're halfway through the season, and we have the biggest time jump yet. 10 years.
So immediately I've thrown in like 3 memes. This is where I got into my groove.
Biggest time jump yet.
Busy Tea by episode 10.
10 years. Making it around 15 years since episode 1. Alright, it's time for a rapid fire character round.
Oh, this is the rapid fire character round. This is the this was inspired by Glidus. You know, in his piss takes he'd sometimes be like, in the last episode, this was like this was like that, and blah blah blah, and it was sort of rhythmic and it would have rhymes in it, and I paid homage to him, which is my way of saying ripped him off.
Let's start with the existing characters. Lionel has lots of brain but no hair, Harwin has lots of hair but no brain, and Daemon's gone from daddy energy to dad energy. Lyman Beesbury forgot what everyone's talking about, Tywin Lannister forgot to get a haircut, and Viserys looks like the vegetable at the back of the fridge I forgot to throw away. Larys has a creepy face, Melos has a black face, and Kristen's face has miraculously refused to age for a decade. I can buy Daemon kind of looking the same because 1, Matt Smith literally doesn't age anyway, and 2, he's adding a different energy to the role that makes him feel older and a bit more mature.
Yeah, people did complain about the ages quite a lot, about how the characters weren't aged up enough. And you can understand why that would be tricky, because it's not like they film the episodes in order. Like, on the same day, you could, like, be filming episode 2 in the morning, and then in the afternoon you're filming a scene for episode 8 where you're meant to be, like, 20 years older. Now, that is an exaggeration, obviously. But, yeah, it's sort of hard. You can't be too drastic. You know, it's not like you can be like, hey, Fabian Frankel, grow out a beard for older Kristen, but shave it for young Kristen, because it's like, well, no, he needs to be able to have the same beard for, you know, because he's going to be bouncing around different time frames and different episodes throughout the year of filming. So like for Kristen, his hair's, it looks like maybe he's got extensions at the bottom. When he's younger, when he's older, they get rid of those and then they slick his hair back a bit to make his hair look shorter. Maybe his beard's trimmed up a little bit more. I'm not sure. And Matt Smith, I think a lot of it is about how they carry themselves. Like, Matt Smith really does carry himself differently when he's older. He, like, hunches a bit. So young Daemon, like, has a straight back and he kind of has a bit of a swagger. And then older Daemon, his voice is a lot more slightly a bit more tired, a bit more grunty, and he slouches when he walks, and he sort of clasps his hands together. He seems a lot more reserved and a lot less cocky, and that helped. And they do some stuff with makeup to make him look older, but I do understand people complaining and being like, no, these characters are not aging as much as they should. Some of them are. Viserys and Lionel Strong are actually aging, and then everyone else isn't, but, you know.
Kristen... My man literally just had a minor haircut. It's got to be those Dornish genes, goddamn. For now, I can buy a young...
Let's get my boy back up.
Literally just had a minor haircut. It's got to be those Dornish genes.
Hell yeah. Alex said, "Woo, love you, bro. Congrats. I love you too, and congrats to you for anything you did today."
Goddamn. For now, I can buy young Kristen being early 20s and this Kristen being early 30s. I think I can buy that. Let's move on to...
See, that's the thing. Kristen, early 20s Kristen in episode 1 and 2, yeah, that's fine. Post-time skip Kristen being in his early 30s, sure. Episode 8, 9 and 10 Kristen? No, he's not in episode 10. Episode 8 and 9 Kristen being early 40s? No. I know he's got the Dornish genes. Okay. I know Dornish don't crack, but even so, that's ridiculous. That is clearly not a 40-year-old man.
To the new characters. Grand Maester Orwyle is probably the only reason Viserys is still alive, and Jasper Wilde displaying a dislike for Daemon this early is good setup for his eventual support of the Greens.
Say it with me, chat. Say it with me.
Darkling schemes.
Actually, that's the episode 9 review. We can save that for later. But I do like some of the things that were happening in the background. They weren't necessarily told to you. Like, throughout the show, Orwyle is constantly saying, oh, try this remedy, do this thing. And he seems to be, and this, yeah, it says here, his methods are less traditional than that of his predecessor. And that's all kind of background stuff in the show, where Melos is like, no, try this old remedy. And you could argue that Melos dies, so like at the end of, during episode 5, Melos stands up and he has trouble doing it, and he's like, ugh. And it kind of suggests he's a bit ill, and then he dies in the time skip. Maybe Orwyle takes over and is like, okay, I've got some proper remedies that the previous Grand Maester wasn't doing. Let me give them to you, Viserys, and that may have prolonged his life. I don't know. But it's just a fun little background detail that most people wouldn't notice, but if you're keeping a keen eye, you can. Also, how did Orwyle become Grand Maester in the show? Because isn't the Grand Maester is appointed by the Conclave, so all the Archmaesters get together and they appoint someone to represent them on the council as the Grand Maester. But Orwyle just came across as like a surgical maester who's like following Melos, like his assistant. How did he go? I don't know.
Probably the only reason Viserys is still alive, and Jasper Wilde displaying a dislike for Daemon this early is good setup for his eventual support of the Greens.
We see another thing. I don't want to go on about it too much because I was talking about this earlier about side characters not being given enough like screen time, even just having the camera focus on them while they're talking so the audience can remember who they are. Terrible case with Ironrod, where he would talk during the small council scenes, but the camera would just like focus on Alicent or Viserys or Rhaenyra, and it'd be like, the audience has not met this man yet, show him off. People don't know who Ironrod is, and they deserve to know because he is a loyal man and he is not a coward. Okay.
Support of the Greens. We finally met Rhaenyra's children, the normal one, and the baby. And Daemon's children too, the normal one who can ride a dragon and the normal one who can't ride a dragon. Cool. What about Alicent's children? Let me see, we've got the pervert, the bug girl, and the school shooter. Awesome. Fun fact.
There we go. The pervert, the bug girl, and the school shooter. Well done, Alicent. Mother of the Year award. No, it makes perfect sense why Alicent's children are fucked up compared to the others. They have a father who doesn't give a shit about them, and they have a mother who, was a teenager, basically. Aegon was a toddler while his mother was a teenager. That's guaranteed. They're guaranteed to have some issues there.
Prince Aegon is played by Ty Tennant, the adopted son of David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, and the biological son of Georgia Moffat, who starred on Doctor Who as the 10th Doctor's daughter/clone. No relation to Stephen Moffat, who wrote the show from 2010 to 2017.
Oh, this is one of my favourite little bits. This took me ages to do in DaVinci because it's so fucking laggy. But this bit.
The bug girl and the school shooter. Awesome. Fun fact, Prince Aegon is played by Ty Tennant, the adopted son of David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, and the biological son of Georgia Moffat, who starred on Doctor Who as the 10th Doctor's daughter/clone. No relation to Stephen Moffat, who wrote the show from 2010 to 2017, but absolutely relation to her father, Peter Davison, not to be confused with Pete Davidson, who played the 5th Doctor. So what I'm saying is the 5th Doctor's grandson, who's also the son of the Doctor's daughter, who is actually the Doctor's daughter, as well as the son of the 10th Doctor, is playing the 11th Doctor's nephew. I love British TV. And I love nepotism. If I had a nickel for every time in your
boom. That might be my favourite my favourite part of this review. It is funny how it all ties together. The grandson of the Doctor and the son of the Doctor and the son of the Doctor's daughter, who's literally the Doctor's daughter, is the Doctor's nephew. It's wild. It's wild.
If I had a nickel for every time a neurotic playboy wanked off to a city skyline, I'd have 3 nickels, which is an absurd amount of nickels to have for something so specific.
That's a good line too.
Man, what's he even flaying his eel to? The dragon pit? Are some of those clouds shaped like Melisandre or something? Bro, what happens if a fucking pigeon just thinks it sees food and dive bombs him? I wasn't expecting 2 white worms in one season, damn. Imagine the commoners down below watching up in horror. That's the real pink dread, if you know what I mean. So many princes have flown from this window, it's tragic. Yeah, right, that's enough. Oh yeah.
Alright. I think that might be when I peaked. I thought the Tie Tenant thing was, but the Tie Tenant thing followed by all the innuendo. That's when Fantasy Haven peaked. We may have got bigger. We may have been more successful now, but we're soulless. All the videos are transactional. This was peak Fantasy Haven. This was when I was real and raw. What was that line I said? It was like, there's more than one pink dread this episode. Also, that is funny. Like, the moment I saw that scene, I was like, that's literally Homelander from The Boys and Roman Roy from Succession. Why does everyone keep wanking off to the city? Why? Honestly, I think if I was super rich and I lived in a penthouse, I'd consider it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I'd do it, though. I'd just consider it.
Yeah, here's some advice to mothers out there. If your teenager is butt naked making a bald man cry, don't grab his face and start shouting him about his older sister. His sexual development will not go well. As well as recasting Kristen Cole, the show has replaced 4 actors. Rhaenyra and Alicent have similar vibes to their younger selves, but now they feel like actual adults. Emma Darcy has a similar face shape to Millie Alcock, especially the eyes, but not so much the nose. I guess...
Oh, this has become the Millie Alcock nose discussion. See, everyone thinks Goliath and Shift X should start the Millie Alcock nose podcast. I deserve the royalties. I brought it up first, alright?
Rhaenyra's nose became a lot more regal when she hit her 20s. Oh, and adult Alicent looks scarily similar to young Alicent. Laena was a great recast. It's fun to see this inquisitive child grow into a confident young woman and now into an authoritative wife and mother. Adult Laenor brought a lot of personality to the role, although he looks more like his child version than his teenage version. Recasting the teens was a risky but smart decision. These characters now feel like actual adults and parents. Miguel's cheeky pair of one-takes was a great introduction to the new Rhaenyra, Alicent and Laenor. One-takes are always cool, but a truly great one-take isn't about showing off your directing skills. It has to contribute to the scene in some meaningful way.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, Miguel came up with this idea apparently. Miguel Sapochnik was like, I want this to be a one-take, or rather 2 one-takes, one of the birth and one of Rhaenyra making her way all the way up to Alicent, because we have a set, let's use the set. Instead of cutting to the room, let's have them actually walk through the set to the room. And I think it was Sarah Hess who was worried about it, because she was like, no, we need to cut all the fat out the script. Having her walk up the stairs and all that stuff is just wasted time. But Miguel really pushed for it and went, no, we need this. We need this sort of... We need these 2 one-takes because it really helps ground the audience straight away. And I think it worked. I think they were amazing. Yeah. Also, I don't like the idea that spending time having her like go up the stairs in pain and walking past like Lord Caswell and being like, oh, hello, and so on. That stuff counts as fat that needs to be trimmed, because it implies that any sort of... Like, anytime anything is slowed down and characters interact in a way that isn't 100% necessary to the plot is fat. It's like, no, I don't think that's true. I think we need... What Hot D needed was more scenes of characters just chilling and having downtime and talking, you know?
In Game of Thrones, they help to ground the battle scenes and put us in Jon Snow's boots. In this, they're reintroducing us to Rhaenyra and grounding her. We're following her through this childbirth and her journey to Alicent, and it feels real. The episode establishes Alicent and Rhaenyra's current relationship so well. Alicent wants to see the baby immediately, displaying her lack of trust, while Rhaenyra wants to deliver it herself, despite being in pain, as a show of spiteful defiance. Oh yeah.
Well, my audio's definitely got better. Grace Randolph jump scare. I can't even remember why she... What? Okay.
Defiance. Oh yeah, shout out to Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer for saying that she found it offensive that the women and the gay man were recast.
Oh, Grace Randolph is such a meme. She's such a meme. She's such a meme. She always has the most ridiculous takes. So I watched her reviews. I watched a load of different reviews after the episode came out. I watched hers. And she would say stuff. She'd say the weirdest stuff. And one of them was, oh, so you're not going to cast Matt Smith. You're not going to recast Matt Smith because he's famous Matt Smith. But you're going to recast the gay guy and the girls? That's interesting. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, because they're teenagers. It's teenagers after a 10-year time skip, so they need to become adults now. You could imagine Millie Alcock and Emily Carey playing 30-year-olds. No one would take that seriously, right? Meanwhile, Matt Smith is playing a 30-year-old who then 10-year time skip goes into their 40s. Why would you recast Matt Smith, a 40-year-old man, by someone who looks just like Matt Smith but is looks a bit older? Yeah, it's just Grace Randolph being Grace Randolph. But I found that funny. Yeah.
I'm so glad she's discovered the sexist, homophobic HBO plot to recast women and gay men. He can't keep getting away with it.
So are the conspiracy has been revealed. Women, recast them halfway through the season. Gay men, recast them halfway through the season. White men like Matt Smith, keep them. Don't recast them. It's the conspiracy has been revealed. Yeah. I know, mocking Grace Randolph is low-hanging fruit, but, I was a small channel. I was allowed to go after low-hanging fruit.
The time skips working? Overall, I have to say yes, they are working. This episode was the greatest hurdle so far. We have new actors, new characters, and it's thrown right into your face at the very beginning without any explanation. It's a second pilot of what might end up feeling like 2 5-episode miniseries stuck together. Is it overwhelming? Yeah. Is it confusing at times? A little bit, especially for casual viewers. Is it rushed? Absolutely. And we'll be delving.
I'm gonna speed this one up a bit.
Into that. But there are only 2 other realistic alternatives, splitting this season into 2 seasons or starting season 1 with the outbreak of the Civil War. You can't stretch the build-up of the Dance of the Dragons over 2 seasons. Yes, we would have more time with side characters and building up relationships, but there's not enough story content. If the older characters were introduced next season, what would the climax of this season be? What would be the incentive to watch season 2? Hot D is following in the footsteps of Game of Thrones. There are different...
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Hello,
I clicked the back button on my mouse. No. Oh, it's all falling apart.
2 seasons would make this part of the story too sluggish and thinly spread. And as for starting this season with Viserys' death, no, you need the build-up. You need to understand who these characters are. Cramming the pre-dance era into a single season was a huge risk, but I think it's paying off. For now, at least.
Yeah, I stand by that. I think when Brian Cogman was attached to the project, the idea was going to be Brian Cogman or someone else, I can't remember. The idea is that Hot D would begin with Viserys' death, and it would be like the outbreak of the war to begin with, which is a terrible idea. Likewise, Gurm's desire to start Hot D with Balon the Brave and Aemon, and that was also a terrible idea. That's too far away. I think having 1 season of pre stuff, and yeah, people were like, "Oh, this season should have been 2 seasons." I stand by what I said. I don't think it should have been 2 seasons. I think it worked. 2 seasons would have been way too stretched out. I think it made sense to have it in 1 season. I just think this season needed to be more than 10 episodes. If you're going to cram all this in, 12. I think 12 minimum. I say 11 minimum. 10 just wasn't enough. Even just 1 more episode could have saved the pacing a bit more. Yeah.
It's not perfect, and I have issues with the pacing, but what else could they have done? I feel like the best case scenario would have been splitting this episode into 2 episodes and having an 11-episode season. But ultimately, that's up to HBO, not the showrunners. HBO delegates the budget, after all. So what are my criticisms of the episode? It's too rushed. Harwin is pretty cool this episode, and I really like the tenderness he shows Rhaenyra and the kids, in contrast to his monkey moment in the courtyard. But he hasn't been given enough screen time this season. The show never properly introduced him as a character. In fact, Hot D seems to be struggling to introduce side characters effectively. They just need a few memorable lines of dialogue while the camera focuses on them for more than 5 seconds.
That's literally what I was just telling you. I've kept this criticism through. See, this is a great Laris intro. Because after this episode, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I remember the guy with the cane." Okay, if you didn't have this scene, everyone, even though he's at the wedding and he was in episode 3 at the hunt, if he appeared in episode 6, everyone would be like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Because So actually, yeah.
casual audiences can remember who they are. The fire at Harrenhal needed a bit more time. Maybe Lionel fleeing to the other side of the room and realising his door's also locked, or Lionel collapsing from the smoke, or something. It cut away so abruptly. It wasn't even obvious that Lionel had died. But this isn't a huge deal. This isn't nearly as rushed as Lena's death. Besides Kristen getting away with murder...
I want to hear your takes on this. Who likes Lena's death in the show? Who doesn't like her death in the show? Because I, for one, I didn't like it. What do you guys think?
With no explanation. This is the second major misstep of the show. One moment Lena is in agony trying to give birth, and the next she just teleports by herself outside the manse, with Daemon like 2 whole minutes behind her. How did she outrun him? Also, Lena choosing to kill herself and her unborn child, instead of killing herself to potentially save her unborn child, feels like a theme and a character moment that should have been explored in some way earlier on. It's especially disappointing because her death in the book is so much better in my opinion. She has a stillborn, she's dying of a fever, she wants to ride Vhagar one last time but collapses, so Daemon takes her back to bed and stays with her as she dies. You could have mixed these up, you know, have Lena give birth to a stillborn baby, she's dying of fever or blood loss, she staggers to Vhagar and kills herself with dragonfire. Either with Daemon's help, to humanise his character more, or with the help of her maids, if they want to show that their marriage has deteriorated. Either way, it's better than having her magically teleport all by herself.
Live Vhagar reaction. I found this somewhere on Discord, and since then I kept using it in all my Hot D videos.
In order to kill herself and her unborn child instead of trying to save the child. I don't know. The whole thing is rushed and poorly edited. Also, the overly sad music that plays when she dies was ridiculous. This character does not warrant that music.
Yeah, not enough people talked about this. So first off, the editing is bad, which people did talk about. That like Daemon looks in the room and then he has a surprised face, and suddenly it cuts to her waddling to the dragon. So what the fuck? Did she escape while giving birth? Within the 5 seconds, Daemon wasn't there. Was there a deleted scene? The editing was bad. But the music was, yeah, it felt too much like telling you how to feel, you know. Vhagar breathes fire on her, and then the music's like all sad, like doo-doo. It's like, it felt like the show being like, yeah, we've rushed it and you don't really know enough about her as a character, but feel sad. It's telling you how to feel instead of just letting the scene play for itself. It should have been silent, in my opinion. Not enough media utilizes silence during impactful moments. What do we think? The book version or the show version, or neither? Worked in a functional way, Callum says. Boomler said prefers the Lena version. It was a weird change. Flippy Dip Doo said didn't like it. Felt a bit nonsensical and just a means to make something that happens to a certain character be more noble. Yeah, it felt like a kind of a way to make her death more badass, but like I don't think you needed that. I think that it would have been a really nice moment for both their characters if she is dying and then wants to ride a dragon one last time, but collapses and Daemon takes her back. I understand people might complain and say the focus there is on serving Daemon's character more so than Lena, but Daemon is a main character. Lena is a side character, you know. Or like I said in the video, you can have this moment, but just have it, just edit it better so it doesn't feel so rushed and weirdly paced. Or like have it that she's already given birth, or you know, if she is going to burn herself and her unborn baby, set that up in some way that, you know, that she would rather die than give birth and risk. I don't know. It was kind of like, huh?
She was cool, and it's a shame she died, but it wasn't emotional. If anything, the scene would have felt more impactful if it was silent. But let's end on a positive note. On my second watch, I was able to appreciate just how good the dialogue is. It really is early Game of Thrones vibes. Also, I love Lara Strong. In a show full of complex grey characters who feel more grounded but less vibrant than Game of Thrones characters, it's fun to have an outright psychopathic villain like Laris. Someone who revels in torture and shows no remorse for murdering his family. The actor is great, the character is creepy, and I cannot wait to see his plan unfold. Is Laris scheming just to gain power, or does he have some sort of fixation on Alicent specifically? I don't know.
Uh-oh. Does he just want power, or does he have a fixation on her specifically? He doesn't know. Oh god, oh fuck. Haven has AirPods in. Don't let him know about the feet.
He's got weird vibes around her. But
He's got weird vibes around her. You can say that again. Let's move on to our episode 7 review, I think.
Hello, my dragons.
Oh my god, it's so loud. The audio is so different in each video. It's so... Like, some of them it's too quiet, and other ones are just flat out ear rape. I think I just adjusted my audio differently for every single video I recorded back then.
Seeds, welcome to Fantasy Haven. This is the spoiler review for episode 7 of House of the Dragon, Driftmark of the Dragon.
Bam, 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 bam. The Fantasy Haven theme tune. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Never mind.
This episode, yeah,
Well, maybe. Spiders and stairs, glance.
Actually, no. This I won't do super speed yet. Usually there are meme stuff at the start. I do the little gliders poem at the start.
Best episode yet? Well, maybe. Spiders and stairs, glances and glares, kids being mean, adults beating up this teen. Seriously, give Aegon a break. Episodes 6 and 7 feel like a two-parter, and this slower episode gives us some time to just breathe and soak everything in. I love episodes where...
I forgot about that. Confirmed.
Everything
The
in.
Merlin King. And Varys fades in. Varys reference. Didn't see that coming in, Hot D.
I love episodes where all the main characters...
Corvus said, love your vids, can't wait for Hot D Season 2. I can't wait for Hot D Season 2 either, and I love you as well. There's going to be so much... Hot D Season 2 is going to be wild for my channel, because it's like, okay, let's get going. Reviews, live streams, collaborations. I can do epic YouTube reactions where I put my face in the thumbnail and I film myself blankly staring at a screen and watching an episode for an hour, and then I'm like and subscribe, everyone. No, but seriously, there'll be some great content I could do. I want to do some book versus show stuff in anticipation. It's going to be fun.
Characters are just gathered in one place. It's satisfying to watch a scene with little dialogue while perfectly understanding everyone's relationship with each other. I want to shout out a couple of the minor characters that people are overlooking. Corlys's brother does not fuck around. So far we've seen...
Why does my voice sound so different every episode? And I don't just mean the volume. My voice sounds different every review. It sounds like a different person. Oh, whoops.
Vaemond roasting Daemon, and now not so subtly roasting Rhaenyra and her children. He must have been thrilled with this ending scene. His obsession with Valyrian blood is good foreshadowing for his later actions, which I suspect we'll see in the next episode. And Helena is already an improvement from her book counterpart, who doesn't really do anything. I like that they've made her a dragon dreamer and she's muttering prophecies all the time. Maybe if Viserys gave a shit about his children with Alicent, he'd actually realise this. In the previous episode, she muttered that Aemond must
close an eye,
which comes to fruition here. I love the poetic flow of her prophetic statements. This episode, she said, "Hand turns loom.
I will speed this
spool
one.
of black. Dragons of flesh weaving dragons of thread." Alright, time to have an Alt-Shift X moment, I guess. The spools of green and black refer to the two factions that have formed, Alicent's greens and Rhaenyra's blacks. Dragons of flesh, meaning Targaryens, are weaving dragons of thread, banners or flags perhaps. Or maybe it's a reference to Rhaenyra having bastard children, weaving dragons of thread trying to pass her children off as legitimate. It's all a dark look into the future of this familial conflict. Hand turns loom might be a general statement about both sides being involved, or it could be a reference to the Hand, Otto Hightower, whose actions has certainly helped stoke these tensions. Rhaenyra and Daemon finally hook up, and while they don't have the same fiery, passionate chemistry, it makes sense. Their sex scene is slow, tender, awkward. It's two wounded souls coming together again. I don't find it romantic, I find it weird and complex and kind of sad. Although I do have to admit, it's not as well filmed as the sex scenes in episode 4, directed by Claire Kilner. And I'm still waiting.
Yeah, people weren't a big fan of the Daemon Rhaenyra sex scene. And they don't have chemistry. They don't have sexual chemistry, the actors. Matt Smith and... what's her name? Millie Alcock clearly had chemistry on screen in episode 4. Like there was genuine like sexual chemistry there. None between Emma Darcy and Matt Smith, but they do have chemistry in the later episodes, and it's not a sexual chemistry, but they do have something between them. There is a spark. It's more familial almost, and that kind of works because at that point their marriage is a bit more of an alliance than anything. But yeah.
To see what kind of chemistry Matt Smith and Emma Darcy have.
I'm sorry for just slamming the desk. I didn't mean to do that. My elbow went out.
I didn't detect too much this episode, unfortunately. Corlys and Rhaenys have their best scene yet. Their worldviews clash. Corlys clearly cares about the pursuit of legacy, but doesn't care about Rhaenyra's children actually being bastards, as long as history remembers them as being legitimate Valyrian princes. Meanwhile, Rhaenys considers Corlys' obsession with legacy and her claim to the throne as emblematic of his personal pride and ambition, and she clearly does not accept the strong bastards. It's quite interesting to see this tension in a relationship that
post time skip. Rhaenys got rid of the beehive.
We know is genuinely loving. So the episode went from good to great, and then it became amazing. Every scene after Aemond claims Rhaegar
is a banger. The dragons are cool enough, but I've never really cared too much about them. In Game of Thrones, Fire and Blood, or this show, they interested me the most in Hot D. I appreciate their distinctive designs and, Caraxes is cool and all that. But this scene finally made me enthusiastic about the D words.
Wait, what the fuck? What was that? What was that meme? Hold on. I'm gonna say the D word.
Scene finally made...
My face when Drogon roars for the 50th time. I sleep. My face when albino school shooter rides a lizard. Real shit. Let's go.
It was paced beautifully. Aemond creeping up and taming this huge beast, clambering up onto her back and launching into the sky. I thought they were going to cut away, but they didn't. We see Vhagar racing through the sky while Aemond holds on for dear life. I genuinely got chills watching this scene. But then we go to another amazing scene. I was wondering how they were going to translate the fight scene from Fire and Blood without making it feel awkward or goofy, but no, it felt real. It was really well edited and directed, and the child actors were all believable. Game of Thrones knew how to get awesome child actors, and Hot D is no different. Then we move on to this scene. I can't decide, is the Vhagar scene the best scene, or is this the best scene? The build-up and the tension and the dialogue was fantastic. Mostly fantastic. I could have done without Alicent saying, "This is insufficient," or Viserys using the word calumnies.
Calumnies.
It's kind of a weird word to use, although, credit to the actor, they made it work. Somehow Olivia...
Calumnies. This is a dumb criticism, by the way. There's a bit where I'm criticising Alicent saying, "This is insufficient," and Viserys saying calumnies as being clunky dialogue. But in retrospect, I don't think it is clunky. I think it's done well.
Cook, as Alicent, said that is insufficient in a way that was so emotional. It was only after the episode I thought it was kind of a weird line. And same with Paddy saying calumnies.
Calumnies.
Like, on paper, that's a bit of a stupid line. Like, just say lies, don't say calumnies. But Paddy made it work. I don't know how they do it. The acting is awesome all round. But I praise Emma Darcy for the childbirth scene last week, so I'll move the spotlight onto Olivia Cook for this week. She nailed it. She nailed the fear, the disbelief, the anger of a mother whose son just got wounded with a knife, and the pent-up fury of a woman who's performed her duty, regardless of her personal desires, while her former friend gets away with flouting all rules and traditions. It was a defining moment, and I think we can say that this is the moment when the blacks and the greens were truly formed, and when Walter White finally became Heisenberg.
Calumnies.
But it's still not over. We get another...
You know what? This stream is very narcissistic, isn't it? It's me watching my own videos and then laughing at my own jokes. This is insufferable. You should watch more of it.
A fantastic montage scene at the end. In Fire and Blood, Carl Corey kills Laenor, either in a crime of passion or because he was hired by Daemon. So you decided to trick the book fans, huh? You know what? I respect it. At first I was filled with dread watching this scene. Daemon is ruthless enough to order such a murder, and canonically he probably is responsible in Fire and Blood. But Rhaenyra? It felt like too big a jump for her character, especially after her tender moment with Laenor earlier. Don't get me wrong, Rhaenyra still plots the murder of this...
Okay, yeah, this is another controversial moment. What did you guys think about this one? You guys and girls in the chat, what was your take in terms of the whole fake Laenor death? I liked it. I did like it, but not everyone did. And I do wonder how much of me liking it was just that it was a pleasant surprise as a book reader, being like, oh shit, and actually was something I didn't see coming. So yeah, let me know if you like that. Yeah, calumnies. I think similar to Darkling Schemes, that was like an early Haven meme. I've got to bring that back. Haven merch is coming out. T-shirt with fucking Viserys' face on it. It's like calumnies.
This innocent guy and thrusts suffering upon Corlys and Rhaenys, showing her growing ruthlessness, but she went out of her way to spare her husband and give him the freedom to escape from politics and responsibility. This show has made a couple of questionable changes from the book, but in my opinion this one is an improvement for sure. It does open up some questions though. In the book his dragon Seasmoke is claimed by someone else, but if Laenor's alive, will he have to return and replace this character? Or are dragons incapable of maintaining a long distance relationship? But anyway, this is a 9 out of 10 episode for me.
We still don't know, but I don't know how they're going to handle the Laenor stuff. Yeah, will he die off screen? Will we see him die on screen? Will he return as a dragon seed? We don't know.
But does anything bring it down? The time skip stuff is still affecting the pacing. We don't get to see Rhaenyra mourning Harwin in private or Laenor making his huge decision. And Daemon's oddly homoerotic conversation with Carl was kind of ridiculously cryptic. I guess we can assume their conversation continued after that scene. Daemon gives him money and is like,
A quick death. One with witnesses.
and slinks away, and Carl's like, yeah, cool, but what do you want me to do, bro? As for the darkness that everyone's complaining about, maybe it's my TV or my TV settings or something, but I didn't have a problem with it. I do agree that the day to night didn't look realistic. I don't know if that was a problem with the weather on the day in production or the kind of filter they used, I don't know. But I had no trouble seeing what was happening.
Yeah, but I watched this on my TV in my bedroom with the curtains shut, and when I watched it, it was fine to me. I've seen the episode since and clips from it since, and it's like, oh yeah, it is too fucking dark. But when I first watched it, I think just the lighting in the room and there wasn't an issue. So when I saw everyone complaining about the darkness, I was like, what? There's no issue, bro. It's all good, but no, it's not.
So I can't personally judge the episode for that, even though I fully understand that most people did have trouble and were very annoyed by it. So, 3 episodes left of this generational conflict. I cannot wait. Like and subscribe to see my review next.
Okay, episode 8.
before we jump into the episode 8 review, these reviews are getting better and better. This Haven guy, he's got a little something. I'm going to see what the chat has to say. So, Caden said he was surprised by the twist. Crossfire said it was a convoluted plotting to avoid a bury your gaze backlash that creates complications with the Dragon Seed plotline. It definitely is convoluted, and yeah, it does create complications with the Dragon Seed thing. As I was saying, how is anyone going to claim Sea Smoke unless we just say, what, Laenor's dying off screen? Because if he's dying off screen, what was the point in sparing his life then? Or is he going to come back as a Dragon Seed? But that would be kind of dumb, because everyone would know it was him, unless he wears a disguise. But then, yeah, I don't know. And yeah, it does come across as avoiding the bury your gaze trope that we had. I mean, people were complaining at Joffrey Lonmouth being beaten to death, and by people I mean like clickbait articles that want to stir up, rage, and act all offended about stuff. When it's like, okay, well, in this show we've also had people being nailed to wooden stakes in the beach, some people being sliced in half, someone dying in childbirth. We've got so many grotesque deaths, and it's like, yeah, one of the people who died in a bad way happened to be gay. But I do understand why the producers and someone might have been like, well, do we kill one gay character and then immediately have the other one get fucking stabbed to death by his gay lover? Could have been a bit too much, I guess. I don't know. Corvus said that they liked it, but they're curious what they're going to do with Sea Smoke. Boombler said the fake Laenor death better pay off in season 2, because otherwise it comes across as Rhaenyra is a good person because she didn't kill Laenor. Yeah, I think it was a way to make her more simple. But it doesn't make her a good person though. Like, well, I didn't watch that being like, oh, okay, Rhaenyra is actually good because she didn't murder her husband. I saw it as, okay, yeah, she has a soft spot for her husband, and she has compassion, but she's also fucking ruthless because they ordered the death of an innocent servant to act as the body double of Laenor, and they've made the parents believe that their son is dead. That's pretty fucking evil. Like, what Daemon and Rhaenyra did was pretty evil, but it's just not as evil as actually killing Laenor. Morally grey. I liked it. Carl Karsnark said, it's the old ace up the sleeve. Laenor will come back for one last hurrah. The first time we saw him, he swoops in from off screen, and that's how we'll see him for the last. Maybe. As long as it's not like a Benjen Cold Hand situation in season 7 where he just rides in out of nowhere. Flippy Dippy Doo said, I thought it was stupid. Daemon and Rhaenyra want to be seen as ruthless with rumours of murdering Laenor, and are somehow surprised Rhaenys thinks they murdered him. Yeah. The justification for wanting people to think it was them didn't make any sense. Like, I get them being like, we need him out of the way, he doesn't want this position, let's have him fake his death. Okay, that's fine, that makes sense. But being like, we want people to think we may have done it, because then we'll be feared. In doing so, putting a massive finger up to your Valyrian allies. But then it doesn't matter, because they become allies anyway, despite clearly by episode 10 still thinking they're responsible. Yeah, it's messy. Okay, time to start the episode 8 review. From what I remember, this is when my shit posting goes from generic to overdrive. Shit posting and overdrive for this episode. I that's what I seem to remember.
Her children are and she is a whore.
Yes. Oh, I remember that. I don't remember all of these reviews, but the moment Vaemond appeared at the start, I was like, oh, this is the Bobby B one. Whore.
When every episode is becoming the best episode yet, you know you've hit gold.
It's been a 6-year time skip, so let's see where all the characters are at. Rhaenyra's outflanked, Daemon's a tank, Jace pulls a blank, and Luke giggles at the memory of a porcine prank. Otto's biased, Alicent's pious, the councillor liars, and Viserys' situation grows dire. Aemon's rude, Helena's a mood, and Aegon gets me too'd while lying in the nude. Baela's betrothed to a nerd, Rhaenyra's hair is nesting a bird, Corlys isn't around to call something absurd, but Rhaenys has the final word. What am I doing? What is this? And
Oh, I love the little rhymes at the start. They were cute. Again, they're Glidus rip-offs, but I had fun with them. I love the whole, Baela's betrothed to a nerd. And it cuts to Chase doing like the angry stand he does in this episode, where he's like hunched over with it grabbing, like clenching his fists. But honestly, they are bars. I should get my intro music and just rap all of those over it. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Baela's betrothed to a nerd. Oh. Daemon's not around. Oh, not Daemon. What's his name? Corlys not around to call something absurd. Do a little grind thing, no. Go on.
Joffrey's also here, but Daeron isn't. Or is he?
What happiness it is.
Do not know the answer. Alright.
Yeah, this was back when back when we didn't know if Daeron was going to exist in season 2 or not.
I need to address the time skip. Inside the episode, Ryan Condal says the kids have been aged up into the 17 to 21 age range. What crevice of his arse did he pull that one from? Alright, so we see 10 years pass between episode 5 and 6, and we know because Viserys tells Lionel that he's been the Hand for 10 years. So let's be generous and say it's not dead on 10 years, it's more like 10 and a half years. If it were over half, Viserys probably would have said 11 years, right? This episode is a 6-year time skip. Again, let's be generous and say 6.5 years. So at the very most, 17 years have passed since episode 5. In episode 5, Aegon is 3, maybe 4, so at the very most we can say he's now 21.
Conspiracy Haven is coming out.
Lena is 1, maybe 2, which makes her 19 at the most. Aemond and Jace aren't even born yet, so again, at the very most, they're 17. So these characters, at the very most, taking into account that I do not understand numbers, are between 17 and 21. Oh shit, that's what you said in the first place. Well, Lucerys is younger than Jace, so ha, that serves you right, Condal. Rhaenyra and Alicent definitely feel...
Yeah, I remember being like, do the ages work out? Do they add up? At a stretch, they kind of do, but it's still weird.
Feel a bit older, especially Alicent when she's rocking the pious look. The strong boys look the right ages, and my god is Joffrey cute. Aegon doesn't really look like his younger self, but considering the actor's 27, I can easily buy him as a 21-year-old. At least one that's been hitting the Dornish red since he was 13. Helena, Baela, and Rhaena, they really kept their names, are good recasts, and Kristen still refuses to age, apparently, despite being like a 40 at this point. But we need to talk about Aemond.
Final tribute.
Look at this absolute Chad.
Yes, yeah. I can genuinely buy Tom Glencarney playing like a 21-year-old. He has a young, boyish face. I can buy that. I can buy him playing a young adult who's kind of been through some shit. Ewan Mitchell as a 17-year-old, that's absurd. That is absurd. But we can forgive him because he's a Chad.
This is not a 17-year-old. He looks like a villain from an anime about the House of Habsburg. He looks like the son of Osferth and El Driver. My man looks like someone tried to draw Daemon Targaryen from memory. As usual, all of the new...
He looks like someone tried to draw Daemon from memory. There's no way I must have ripped that off of somewhere. There's no way I came up with that.
New actors are fantastic, but Aemon's the standout for me. With his unique features, intense glare, and oddly unsettling voice, Aemond radiates a quietly dangerous energy. He clearly wants to enter the Game of Thrones pantheon of pale, creepy voice inbred-looking dudes that women find hot for reasons not even they understand. Sadly for him, Daemon's reserved the final seat. It's right next to Ramsay's. This...
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Pale, weird-looking dudes... Ramsay, Daemon, Aemond, that women are just like, yeah, I would. Tell me I'm wrong.
It is a slow episode with scenes that linger and breathe, an appreciated change of pace after episodes 6 and 7. It's also an episode of little moments that don't need to exist but make the characters feel real, like Otto nodding at Helena reassuringly after her speech. Also, Otto shitposting during the dinner made me laugh out loud. There's no way that wasn't just Reese fans taking a piss. Of all the
Best moment in Hot D is Otto just like fucking doing that clap.
episodes,
It's funny because the scene, you can see that Alison is like talking and then sees Otto clapping and then laughs, and it feels very much like the actors. It feels like Reese fans is just doing that, and he made what's her name, Olivia Cook, laugh.
so far, this feels like it could be adapted into a play. It's an episode of strong dialogue and interior locations, with relatively little action. The first act of this episode deals with the new status quo in King's Landing. The Greens have centralised power, with Viserys addled on milk of the poppy, and Rhaenyra away from the capital. Who could have seen this coming? Alicent has really embraced the fate of the Seven. For her,
Let me just replay that.
Alicent has really embraced the fate of the Seven.
The face of the Seven, my favourite religion.
For her, it's not just a connection to her heritage in Old Town, but a way to manage her anxiety, I think. For Rhaenyra, it's yet another layer of self-righteous bullshit. Honestly, if I were Alicent, I would just disinherit Aegon and push for Aemond to be king. He's a badass warrior who rides the largest
Yes, it's back, live Vagar reaction.
dragon, while Aegon is just a lazy, neurotic rapist. To be fair though, maybe Otto and Alicent consider Aegon to be relatively weak and malleable enough to make a good puppet king. Whereas Aemond, I think if Aemond were king, he'd be heavily involved. He probably wouldn't even need a council, he'd just do everything himself. The second act deals...
See, that's the thing, is like, if Aegon doesn't want to be king, and he is so useless, why are they so obsessed with putting him on the throne when he can just abdicate and then they push for Aemond, who wants to be king and is a warrior and has a giant dragon and is respected and so on. But, again, I'm guessing the idea is Aemond would be too much of his own man, while Aegon would be the perfect puppet for Alicent and Otto to rule the kingdom through.
with succession.
I must admit my confusion.
Oh, they're confused.
Yes. Another little glidicism. I'm a bit confused. Shanja. Sorry, Shanja. I'm a bit confused. Shanja, please. That's my Littlefinger impression. That's my Littlefinger death impression. Shanja, please. Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. I can't believe in season 1 Littlefinger's just like, hello, Lord Stark. How are you? Welcome to the court. I know your wife. And then in season 3 he's like, Harrenhal, I suppose. That's off the table as well. Like, what the fuck? Why did he become Irish Batman in like 2 seasons? Why did he go from a smarmy English guy to Irish Batman? Shanja. Okay, that's enough.
Must admit my confusion.
Oh, they're confused.
For some reason, Daemon Targaryen doesn't want his great-nephew to become Lord of Driftmark.
They're white. They got brown hair. Very obvious.
Daemon's actors have...
Vaemon's actor is so fucking funny. If you've seen the inside the episode for episode 8, he's just sitting there being like, they're white. They got brown hair. Obvious.
hamming it up, and I love it. He nearly goes too far, but he doesn't. Unlike Vaemond.
I will not see it ended on the account of this bastard.
Apparently Matt Smith pretended to slice Will Johnson's head during rehearsals, so they just decided to kill the actor in the final take. That's crazy. Nice multi-
That is wild. Did you guys know this? You know how Matt Smith put the crown on Viserys' head because that happened in a rehearsal? Well, in the actual rehearsal of Vaemon's death, Matt Smith did actually murder the actor, and they kept it in for realism's sake. I think that's stunning and brave, quite frankly. Yeah.
$2 million production you have there, HBO. It would be a shame if the best scene of the entire season so far was an old man walking towards a chair. Tonight's category is King Baldwin IV of Jerusalem. I'm not one to cry during TV or movies, which is strange because I'm a sensitive dude, but this scene was phenomenal. I'm so happy they let it play out.
Yeah, this is the only time in the entire season where I actually teared up, is the him climbing up to the throne.
At the peak of his physical weakness, the king has never been stronger. When the crown drops and Daemon picks it up for him, I teared up for the first time watching this show. The fact that this was inspired by Matt Smith improvising during a rehearsal is crazy, because the symbolism of Daemon helping his brother to the throne and picking up the crown and placing it on his head is perfect. Whew, this is too emotional. Quick, I need some levity. Tyrion. Got any cock jokes for us, Tyrion? Mushroom? You coming back, Mushroom? Where'd you go? Wait, hold on. I've got one. I don't understand why Viserys doesn't just pick up his crown. He's got another hand right there. Thank you very much. I do Thursdays at Flea Bottom. Thank you. Ah, the feast is here.
So fucking stupid. So stupid.
They killed the Pink Dread. So are they cutting out the bit in Fire and Blood where he says it's pork in time and knocks Aemond off Casterly Rock? What the hell? Oh, shit. Book spoilers. Sorry.
You see what I mean? Where my videos get more shit posted as I go on. I think at this point I was like, no one's watching my videos. I'm just going to be fucking dumb.
So Viserys decides to completely ruin everyone's appetite. Enjoy the smell,
also,
lads.
You can see how good my animation has become comparing my recent Tyrell video
He says it's pork in time
to this.
And knocks Aemond off Casterly Rock. What the hell? Oh, shit. Book spoilers. Sorry. So Viserys decides to completely ruin everyone's appetite. Enjoy the smell, lads. Imagine becoming...
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine everyone's sitting there getting ready to eat and Viserys just releases his ganky fucking face and everyone's like, oh god, I'm trying to fucking eat.
a badass one-eyed warrior and your dad just steals your look. So embarrassing. I guess Aemon deserves it for stealing Daemon's entire personality and wig. The whole gang is here. Alicent, his wife, Aemond, his second-born son, Otto, his hand and his father-in-law, Aegon and Helena, his firstborn son and son-in-law, and second-born daughter and daughter-in-law, respectively, Baela and Rhaena, his nieces and first cousins twice removed and soon-to-be first cousins twice removed and granddaughters-in-law, Jason Luke, his grandsons and step-nephews and first cousins twice removed and soon-to-be his first cousins twice removed and nephews-in-law, Daemon, his brother and son-in-law and widow of his first cousin once removed, and finally Rhaenyra, his daughter and sister-in-law and widow of his other first cousin once removed. How come he wanted his whole...
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I take that last bit and I'd put that in my best episode of Hot D because I thought it was so funny. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that shtick again, but with better animation stuff. My phone keeps falling on my... I'm sorry about the loud noise.
Whole family at dinner, but didn't invite his cousin, or his brother's mother-in-law, or even his daughter's mother-in-law. Admittedly, they're all the same woman, but that's not the point. Where is she? I guess Rhaenys is also soon to be his grandson's grandmother-in-law, and his niece's grandmother-in-law. I'm not sure. But Rhaenyra's new babies are her sons and her cousins.
That much is beyond dispute.
On a serious...
Oh, I love all that shit. That is a great scene in Game of Thrones when Olenna's just like, what, your mother-in-law will be your sister-in-law and stuff like that. With all the weird marriages. It's even crazier with all this incesty stuff.
Serious note, Viserys' speech was deeply moving, and laid the foundation for genuine expressions of admiration and regret from both Alicent and Rhaenyra. Do I believe that the raspy pleas of a dying old husband and father could at least temporarily mend this schism? Absolutely. In their own way, they love Vizzy T. The feast is warm and hazy, an enticing distraction from the plots and intrigue and infighting. When Viserys' expression becomes pained, I wonder what's going through his mind. Is it just the agony of his illness? Is he watching Jason and Helena dance and thinking about how different everything would be had they married? By the end of this episode, I wasn't sure if Viserys had found peace in the delusion of a mended family rift, or if the inevitable consequences of his inaction and impending death had finally caught up with him. And I'm still not sure. Although we are teased with a reconciliation between old friends, the truce is not respected by the younger generation. And herein lies perhaps the greatest tragedy of the episode. Parents and grandparents often pass their own fears, resentments, rivalries onto their offspring. Alicent's children and Rhaenyra's children have spent the last 6 years apart, stewing in the cauldron of their family's grudges. At the end of the episode, Viserys dies, for the 5th time this season. I didn't mind the mix-up with Alicent. I generally despise miscommunication as a major plot point, but it makes sense for the both of them. Viserys is dying and isn't lucid. Alicent is hearing what she wants to hear. That's the interpretation I like, at least. Now, the director did say that wasn't the intention of the scene, and that Alicent fully believes Viserys was naming Aegon as his heir, but it's not explicit, so I'll stick with my interpretation. You know what? Maybe Hot D has built up so much goodwill that I'm just blind to a goofy scene. If this is what the Prince That Was Promised stuff has been leading up to, well, I didn't expect it. I don't even dislike it. Let's put it to rest now, okay? Speaking of...
Yeah, so... Don't mind me just chilling here watching my video. Yeah, the whole miscommunication scene, definitely got mixed opinions on it now. Yeah, see, that's what annoyed me about it. They had so many scenes that were open to interpretation, and then a director or a writer would come out and just ruin it. Like, I like viewing this scene as, you know, Alicent is so desperate to cling on to the idea that Aegon is the rightful heir, because she's been living her whole life that way and she can't just give it up after one dinner. And she misinterprets what Viserys is saying, almost, being like, I have no choice but to misinterpret him because I want to be validated in my worldview. I want my life to have meant something. I can't just concede. And so I'm gonna accept what you've said, twist it into something else in my brain, and march through the cognitive dissonance, But then they're like, oh no, Alicent completely believes him, and it's like, okay, so it really is just a full-blown miscommunication trope. Ugh, okay, fine.
Of Viserys finally lets go. Is it just from the exertion of the day, or has he found peace at last? With his genuinely heart-rending but beautiful death scene, we say goodbye to one of the best characters in Hot D, and maybe the Game of Thrones TV universe as a whole. Paddy's performance was incredible. From peeling an egg at a council meeting to strutting down the catwalk in his Phantom of the Opera cosplay, the conflicted monarch that was Viserys Targaryen has been an utter joy to watch. 2 episodes left. The king is dead. Long live... well, that's the question, isn't it? Like and subscribe to see my review next...
Boom. Next episode. Cool. Have we covered the Darkling portion of the video? We have just made it. Darkling Schemes is in episode 9. The one, the only. What do you guys think about the miscommunication? Writers sometimes just plain don't understand what makes a scene work. That's what Todd said. Boomler says, I don't like the miscommunication. I prefer Alicent as more of the book version where she's actively plotting. I completely agree. I mean, my worst episode of Hot D video is about episode 9 specifically. F's in the chat for Vizzy T, by the way. What a character. What a beautiful character. Okay, yeah, the Darkling Schemes are coming. Let's start our episode 9 review. This also has a weird cut in at the start, because this video got demonetized. In fact, not only did this video get demonetized, it's the only video of mine that's been demonetized. Because I had the Game of Thrones theme music playing for like 5 seconds at the start during the intro. It literally just the like the ending bit. And they got a copyright strike saying this music is owned by something company, and it was some fucking Russian company. And I tried to appeal it and nothing happened. So I was just like, fuck it, I cut it out. It's still not monetized. Oh yeah, it's not monetized because I had to cut shit out at the start. It's under 8 minutes, which means it doesn't have mid-rolls. So I was just like, who gives a shit? Okay, let's watch my episode 9 review. The least controversial episode of Hot D ever. Let me know your thoughts in the chat.
While many bitter and jaded fans of Game of Thrones wrote Hot D off as some poorly casted cash grab prequel, I was always cautiously optimistic.
This is me throughout the entire pre-show release era. I was like, no, listen, the show's going to be good, trust me. And then Gilly, so that Sam represents me, Gilly in the back represents Natalie Dormer, who's my wife, by the way, I'm married to her. And that represents our son, Haven Jr., who's going to inevitably backstab me, like Ramsay backstabbed Roose. Or front-stabbed Roose, I guess, in Season 6.
Over the last several weeks, it's been satisfying watching the fandom roar back to life as the season progresses and the episodes get better and better. Even despite being an optimist, Hot D has managed to blow my expectations away. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Having enjoyed 8 generally fantastic episodes, I was lulled into a sense of comfort about the future of the season. Episode 9 is usually the bombastic season finale that's followed by an epilogue in the form of Episode 10. They're climactic and dramatic, sometimes martial, sometimes political, sometimes deeply personal. Now, my anticipation for the first ever episode 9 of Hot D was mixed with my love for the content it adapts. The Green Council is one of my favourite parts of Fire and Blood, and when I saw the list of episode titles, I realised what the showrunners were doing. Episode 9 would be the Green episode, while episode 10 will be the Black episode. Genuinely, it's a genius idea. In a show that's consistently surprised even this optimist, the last thing I expected was for episode 9, the Green Council, to be the weakest of the season so far.
Okay, one thing I do want to say. This isn't related to the episode, because I want everyone to start talking about episode 9, because this is the controversial episode. But I didn't put these chapters in here. I in my reviews, I didn't put chapters. I accidentally put automatic chapters when I scheduled this, when I first posted it. I didn't schedule back then, I just posted. And this is YouTube's auto chapters. So it's recognized this entire section as the intro, this as pacing, this as characterization, this as the final scene. That's actually pretty good. Like, YouTube just auto-filled this out. That's fucking awesome. Hell yeah. Obviously, for my animated videos, I think it'll be, I need to do that myself. I need to do the timestamps myself, because I don't think the, whatever AI sorts this out would be talented enough for that. But for something like talking about an episode or something, that's pretty cool.
This review will be quite short compared to my other ones. I want to work on a big video about why the Green Council is such a disappointing episode, but it isn't fair to go into depth before the season is even over.
So yeah, the reason why this is... Another reason why this is my shortest review beyond the Russia fucking me over. First Ukraine, then Fantasy Haven. It's disgraceful. Anyway, is because... Like, I didn't want to talk too much about this episode because I in my head I planned the worst episode of Hot D, and I was like, I need to do this. And so I go into depth in that one, but...
Possible that episode 10 will improve or worsen decisions made in episode 9. So I'll give you my general thoughts. The episode was good. The directing, cinematography and acting were phenomenal, as always. The writing is solid. Sarah Hess knows how to write dialogue that fits within this world, and there are several individual scenes that I really enjoy in a vacuum. But in truth, this episode left me disappointed and bemused. There are 3 main reasons for this. To start with, the pacing is completely off. I was so underwhelmed by the Green Council.
This ball roll is so satisfying, best part of the episode. I for some reason, I really fucking love the ball roll.
By the Green Council.
It really is. Look at this shit.
I was so underwhelmed by the Green Council.
I love it. I really do like the council balls as the kind of, you know, council is in session. You put the ball in the holder. I know people like to nitpick and like, oh, why do you need a ball? That doesn't make sense. It's like, it's just fucking cool. It's just like a fun little weird cultural tradition that they used to do in Targ era Westeros. You're in the council, you put your ball down. It's just fun, and everyone has their own ball that represents sort of their house and their station and so on. Like the Grand Maces all have the same kind of ball. It's just fun.
Council itself, the namesake of the episode, the dramatic debate in Fire and Blood that feels like a Tarantino scene delivered to the showrunners on a silver platter. I was anticipating the tension building and building as the Greens on the council expressed their resentments and arguments in order to justify this coup, while the elderly Lyman Beesbury argues back, culminating in Sir Criston Cole murdering him, bloodying the hands of everyone involved, forcing them to push forwards with their coup no matter what. Let's just say I didn't get the Tarantino scene I asked for, as well as having the potential...
But foot joke, thank you very much.
To go down as one of the best scenes in the Game of Thrones universe. It could have summarised the Green argument and won over some fans. I love the idea of viewers being split between blacks and greens. You know, so long as it's nerds having fun and...
Base, that's all I can say. This is a great meme.
Sociopaths on Twitter who think they're debating US politics or something.
Oh yeah, the sections of Twitter and Reddit that are like people who are acting like any of this actually fucking matters and are genuinely like hate each other and dedicate their lives to being like, Rhaenyra is the true queen, and it's like, no, you're a black cell, actually she's a whore. And it's like, shut the fuck up, it's a book. It's a TV show and a book, no one cares. It's not people are so weird.
Sociopaths on Twitter who think they're debating US
Look,
politics.
Blood and Cheese literally threatened to R-word Helena's 6-year-old daughter. And then someone with a Rhaenyra profile picture. And... God damn it. I just realised that's a picture of Aemond holding the Communist Manifesto. This entire screenshot is the most cursed thing. Every aspect of this is fucking cursed. Thank you for the super chat from Caden Cumming, who says, Scream, you killed my bees in the same tone as Dany with Where Are My Dragons? Okay, let me get into the... So, Daenerys is like, Where are my dragons? I need to get that down. It's not so much an impression, it's more of a vibe. Where are my dragons? I'm trying to remember, season 2. Where are my dragons? Yeah, that's it. You killed my bees! I can't, I really want to shout, but I can't, because, like, I don't want to disturb people, but... You killed my bees! Where are my bees? Dun 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 dun. Lyman Beesbury goes to the House of the Undying to find his bees. Pirate priest, I kidnapped his fucking bees. He's got them chained up. Lyman sees a load of, like, prophetic visions of bees conquering Westeros. His ancestor, Ellen of the... Was it Ellen Sweet Hive or some bullshit? He sees his death in the future. Anyway, holy shit, we are being raided by Beesbury stands right now. Spring is coming. We do not pollinate. Fire and honey. Honey is coming. Where did this come from? Why are there so many... Hear me buzz. Yes, bee emojis in the chat. See, Ellen Eversweet, that's it. See, that annoys... See, I need to get this off the screen right now. That's actually...
Instead, we get
okay, there we go. I really thought going into this, okay, Beesbury's going to be a fan favourite. They're going to set him up to be a sweet old man. He's going to have the debate. He's going to have the dramatic standoff. I may be old, but you know what? I'm going to get the fucking... I'm gonna get the words up. I'm going to get the exact words up. If I can find them online. But I thought he was going to be this, like, fan favourite with, like, a dramatic death. And I want people to meme him in the same way you guys are memeing him, because you've probably read the books. But instead, he barely does anything. And then he kind of stands up for Rhaenyra, but then immediately dies, and it's just like... Oh. Yeah, this is the line from the book. I am an old man, but not so old that I will sit here meekly whilst the likes of you plot to steal her crown. Whereas his final words in the show are, do. Thank you for the super chat from Lala Loopsy, who says, House B. Rathian, ours is the honey. God damn it. That's a good one. You know what, guys? You know I said Lyman Beesbury will go to the House of the Undying to save his bees. I was wrong. He's not going to go to the House of the Undying. Lyman Beesbury is going to go to the House of Black and Yellow. He's going to be a faceless bee. He's going to train to be a bee assassin. So stupid. Anyway, let's get on with the video, shall we?
A bizarrely rushed scene in which Beesbury is cucked of his famous book moment by being forcefully sat down to death by Kristen, and then everyone just ignores him.
The phrase cucked of his bee moment. Wait, no, what did I say? Beesbury cucked of his... Wait, hold on.
And then everyone... or something. Instead, we get a bizarrely rushed scene in which Beesbury is cucked of his famous book moment by being...
Beesbury is cucked of his book moment by being sat down to death. That's a phrase I never thought I'd say.
Being forcefully sat down to death by Kristen, and then everyone just ignores him. And then Otto says no one can leave, but Sir Harold just leaves like, alright, bye bitches. Okay then. Well, to be fair, this season is covering lots of time. Certain things do need to be streamlined and cut. There's no room for the Green Council, there's no room for Kristen Cole's Kingmaker speech, literally the reason he has that nickname.
My face when B cells seething. All these fucking B cells in the chat. If any of you in the chat are opposed to all the B spamming, all the B cells raiding this stream, I want you to respond with a Cole emoji. Is there a Cole emoji? I assume not, right? Is there a fucking... What's a good emoji that represents Kristen Cole? A white flag. Give me a white flag emoji to represent the Lord Commander of the King's Guard to fight against this Beesbury raid. Okay, let me continue the
No,
video.
we need to save time for the King's Landing Scooby-Doo chase, in which the Crime Hoodie gang spend about half the episode trying to hunt down Aegon, repping that Daemon merch. I respect it. There are no stakes, I do not care, why is everything so awkward? The second big problem I have is with Aegon's characterization. So in Fire and Blood, the Blacks are clearly the protagonists and the Greens are the antagonists. I assumed that same dichotomy would stay for this show, but I imagined the Greens would be more nuanced and morally grey so that us nerds could choose a side. I mean, just from...
Yeah, Again, this is all stuff I go into in way greater depth in my best episode of Hot D video. And I don't want to repeat myself too much. And the video is sort of speaking for itself, but keep telling me what you think about this episode, and when we finish this video, I'm going to go through every single person who is talking about this episode in the chat and giving their take, because I will read it out loud for people to see.
From a cynical standpoint, think of the marketing potential. But with the notable exception of Alicent, I would argue that the Greens are somehow more villainous in the show, which I wasn't expecting. In particular, Aegon. Now, I never cared much for book Aegon, but I always thought he had potential as a character. You know, a spoilt, pervy playboy who don't want it, but gets manipulated into taking the crown, setting him on a dark and twisted path. But the show has already made him dark and twisted. There's nowhere for him to go. He rapes underage maids. He watches children fight to the death, including his own bastards, apparently. He's just an outright villain. It transforms the rivalry between the Greens and the Blacks into good guys with morally grey allies and
Green sells when you bring up the fighting pits.
flat-out villains.
Black Chad's knowing Rhaenyra spared Laenor. I'm a both sider. I'm a fence-sitter. The Virgin, both sides are as bad as each other, versus the Chad, both sides are as good as each other. I'm the only one who's posted a white flag in support of Kristen Cole. That's embarrassing. The bees have won.
Kind of boring, if you ask me.
So yeah, the main criticisms of this episode, of course, the pacing is completely off. The King's Landing chase is ridiculous and boring. They made Aegon too villainous, meaning that his descent into darkness over the course of the war, you know, mirroring Rhaenyra's descent into darkness, you're already starting him off at a super villainous level, to the point where you're not going to get much out of that. There's not going to be enough character development. The conflict isn't as nuanced. Instead of having this like lazy playboy puppet who's a bit of a douche, you have a full-on like piece of shit. Like people comparing him to Joffrey, and then the showrunners coming out and being like, "Oh well, you know, we didn't want to create another Joffrey." So well, you did. You fucking did. You just made another Joffrey. Why would you do that? Why would you basically have? And he's all wearing black and he looks like a villain. And it's like, why would you do that? Come on. I'm not saying I give a shit about. See, this is the annoying thing. I do my worst episode of Hot D video, and I talk about how I don't like how the Greens are presented too villainously, because I think it makes the conflict less interesting and there's less development, and I just think it's a weird choice. Like, specifically for me, it's the whole child fighting pits and that stuff. It makes him morally reprehensible, right? But people in the comments being like, "Oh, you're just mad. You're just a Green stan, and you're mad that your side's not being right." It's like, I don't give a fuck about. It's not real. It's fantasy. I don't support one faction because it's not real. Like I watch it and I have fun. I'm talking about story. And then people are like, Green. Behave yourself. Okay, let's continue. So we talked about... Oh, I also skipped over talking about the council, the whole... how rushed it is. This big, dramatic debate, Tarantino-style scene where the tension stretches and stretches like an elastic band until, boom, it snaps and violence bursts out. Everyone's hand is bloodied. They have no choice but to move on. Instead, it's just... 3 lines are shouted out justifying the coup. Beesbury says, "No, don't do it," and then face smashed in a ball, and everyone awkwardly is like, "Oh, I can't believe you've done this," and then they just carry on, and then Otto's like, "No one leaves until our business is done," and then Harold Westerling's like, "Okay, bye," and then he leaves without the business being done. It was just so rushed and awkward, and the fact that we could have had more council scene time if we had sacrificed the Rhaenys scene that everyone hates. It's so infuriating. Like, why was it rushed? It didn't need to be rushed because the hunt in King's Landing was silly and the Rhaenys scene didn't need to happen. You could have cut a bunch of stuff out and had the... Honestly, the episode's called Green Council. I thought it was going to be a bottle episode. I thought that most of the episode would be character-driven, dialogue-driven, fucking amazing bottle episode with all these great actors bouncing off each other, culminating in the bloody climax of Beesbury's death. And then you move on to Kingmaker finding Aegon, coronation, which you can maybe wrap up in half an hour, 20 minutes. Instead, it's like, 5 to 10 minutes of the council scene in the episode called The Green Council, and instead of presenting the arguments, and Iron Rod's like, oh, I support this for traditionalist and legalistic reasons. Kristen Cole's like, well, I support this because I have a grudge against Rhaenyra. She's a whore, and her children are bastards, and bastards are morally bankrupt. And Alicent's like, listen, Rhaenyra will kill all my children and kill me to take the throne. This is self-preservation. Otto is like, I don't give a shit about Rhaenyra. Who cares about Rhaenyra? What I care about is Daemon. She's married to Daemon. He will be Maegor the Cruel ×2. All of these excuses, other people jumping in and being like, everyone who swore the oath is already dead. You can't have a woman on the throne because it uproots precedent, blah blah. Then Lyman Beesbury fighting back, and he could give his side. He could be like, no, that's not true. Rhaenyra's come to these council meetings. She's intelligent. She's savvy. She understands politics. She's actually bothered to attend. She'd make a good king. Aegon can't be fucked to attend. Why should we support him over her? Blah blah blah. And you have a debate that gets angry and tense, and then Kristen Cole snaps. Maybe Beesbury personally insults him. Maybe Beesbury does something like, why are we listening to you? You're just you're an up-jumped Dornish peasant. The grown-ups are talking, and then Kristen gets behind him and slashes his throat. I think of all the three deaths that are mentioned in Fire and Blood, dying of a chill in the Black Cells is the tame version. Obviously, that's not very interesting for TV. Throwing him out the window is interesting for TV, but I think it's a bit nonsensical. Quiet, clandestine coup. Let's throw someone out the fucking window. That it's fun, but it's it's the mushroom one. I think the throat slash feels like the canon one to me. It's the middle road, and it's the one that's showcased in the HBO animation, which doesn't mean it's canon, but I always saw that. And when I saw the Next Time trailer, in the Next Time trailer at the end of episode 8, you see Beesbury lying on the table with a pool of blood, and I was like, oh, they're doing the knife scene. That's how they're killing him. They're doing the dagger one. The last thing I expected was he gets sat down aggressively, and then his head hits a ball, and then he dies. Shittest death. Anyway, your boy Haven is rambling. Let's continue.
Now, if this were a deliberate choice, I would be disappointed, but sure, I'd get it. They want antagonists for the audience to root against. I don't agree with that creative choice, but I would understand it. But no, the creators have come out and said that they don't want to make another Joffrey.
Yeah, we don't want another Joffrey. He's not a sadist. He's a tragic character. Okay, that could have worked. Even with the, SA that he commits. I don't want to get demonetized, that's why I'm, it's silly that we have to dance around certain words, but, YouTube. Even then you could be like, okay, yes, very dark, very fucked up upbringing, but there's a level of sort of pity you can have for him. But then the whole child fighting pits, okay, fuck off, you're just Joffrey now.
That Aegon isn't a sadist. How can you say that about your own episode? He watches child fighting rings. Like, what? If you wanted to make him a sympathetic villain, why would you go out of your way to make him so evil early on? Like, the fans already think he's the new Joffrey. You've completely failed. The third big problem is the final scene that's been discussed to death online. Rhaenys
Here we
bursts
go.
through the floor.
Here we go. The Rhaenys scene.
Kills hundreds of...
Okay, when I first watched this, the council scene made me more mad than the Rhaenys scene. The council scene pissed me off. When Rhaenys burst through the floor, I was like, this is dumb and unnecessary, but it wasn't like nagging on me. It was the council scene that pissed me off. And then I went on Twitter, Reddit, so on, and everyone was complaining about the Rhaenys scene. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting why you're annoyed at this, but let's focus on the council scene being butchered is more annoying to me. I don't know.
Of innocent commoners, stares down the high towers, and yeets. Do I mind her sparing her late cousin's family? No, as long as episode 10 shows her to be someone who wants peace and negotiation over war and bloodshed.
To be fair, that is true. In episode 10, she is like, I don't want to be involved, but also you should probably sue for peace. And that's why she didn't start the war or kill them all and kinslaying and so on. I'm not mad at Rhaenys not burning her family. I get that. I just think there are so many ways around that scene. You could have had her, she escapes, she breaks out a different part of the dragon pit, she dramatically flies away. They're like, oh fuck, she's going to tell Rhaenyra, and then that's the end. There's a bee beneath the boards. Oh my god, there's so many bees in the chat. The bee in the north. You motherfuckers. Bee chads have won. The bee chads have won.
Right. The issue, of course, is the hundreds of corpses lying in her wake. She she girl bossed them too hard. Again, I'm less concerned about the show deliberately doing something I disagree with, and more concerned about the apparent lack of awareness among the creators. Like, Rhaenys being described as a merciful person, and her scene being called triumphant and awesome, is just like, what? Sarah Hess was asked about the people she killed. Instead of giving, a genuine answer, she just said, it's Game of Thrones, civilians don't count.
The infamous line that many people were angry with. And just to clarify, Sarah Hess seems like a good writer. She did episode 6 and episode 9. They do both happen to be the weakest episodes of the season, in my opinion. But her dialogue is good, for the most part. I think her writing is good. I just think... episode 6, she was dealt a bad hand. Episode 6 is basically 2 episodes in 1 hour, and she had to do that. And it was the hardest one to write, the post-time skip. So, 6 is kind of rushed and a bit mediocre, but it's she was dealt a bad hand. She did a good job with it. Episode 9 is episode 9 is the one you want. If you're a writer, you want to be given episode 9. That's where you go, let me show you what I've got. And the fact that they hyped up episode 9 as the best episode ever, and it's like a Hitchcockian thriller, and instead it was this goofy thing, it's just kind of embarrassing.
What does that mean? They don't count to Rhaenys or nobles in this universe? Because if that's the take, then sure, I hope that gets explored. Or they don't count to the audience because it's Game of Thrones, but that doesn't mean anything. Better monarch my ass, Vizzy T would never. Probably because he was too pussy to ride a new dragon after Balerion died, but that's not the point. There are plenty of good scenes, don't get me wrong. The moment Alicent stands up to Otto is cathartic, and I like the idea of these two having a power struggle, even though it was executed kinda awkwardly in this episode. The Dragon Pit coronation looked incredible, although I would have liked to see Sunfire. And the...
You raise a good point, Carl. Nobles rarely actually kill each other directly, IRL. They're literally relatives. Yeah, the amount of times in medieval times you would have, cousins, distant cousins, sometimes siblings, father and sons. Someone would rebel, burn some villages. They'd get a slap on the wrist. Hundreds dead, maybe thousands dead, and it would just end up in a slap on the wrist and a treaty or something. Yeah, although I do think... Yeah, I don't think it's... particularly tasteful to compare medieval politics to modern day warfare, like what's happening in Ukraine. That's it's not quite the same. Civilians don't count is wholly antithetical to Gurn's entire ideology. Yeah, I know. And if you're doing it from the perspective of what civilians don't count in the eyes of Rhaenys because she's a princess, okay, that's something you can explore. You can do that, but that's not what they're doing. A writer is saying that with a laugh, right? Oh, civilians don't count. It's Game of Thrones. This show is... I think it's a lack of understanding on the part of that writer in particular. And so, when this video is over, I want you to all sign the petition to ban Sarah Hess, to kick her out of the writing staff. No, I'm just kidding, of course. Don't do that, that's dumb. Don't sign petitions related to TV, nothing's ever going to change. Especially don't sign petitions to kick out a writer, that's just kind of dumb. And she's not that bad. Sarah Hess didn't deserve the kind of... Sarah Hess did not deserve the weird hate that she got. She deserved criticism. And it would be nice if she could respond to the legitimate criticism. But people did go a bit overboard, being like, it's the new D&D. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Infamous Larys scene was actually really well written and tasteful, considering what happens. Some people have misinterpreted this scene as some sort of revelation about Larys' motivations. No, Larys' entire goal is not feet. That's just his payment. It's another way he exerts control over Alicent, while making her believe she has some control over him. If she were paying him in coins, no one would be saying, oh, his whole motivation is money. Just his payment. As I said, I'll make a longer video down the road.
I see the point you're making, Carl, in the chat. Were Nicholas, Edward and George in the trenches in World War I? No. Were FDR and Churchill flying planes in World War II? No. Of course, throughout history, the political military leaders stay behind to run things while armies go out and are massacred for their personal goals, whether those goals are personal, ideological, based on resources, power, sex. This happens throughout history. The history of warfare is arguably, from one perspective, the history of sacrificing young men. It's the history of murdering young men for the sake of older men. What I take objection to, not to get too political, is you could argue that nobles in medieval time, they were on the same team in a sense of the same power structure, related to each other, exploiting peasants and so on. But using the phrase "they're on the same team" to refer to Putin and Zelensky in Ukraine, that's a bit far. This is not really. They're in the same role in the sense of they're presidents of their countries, and they're sending their armies to fulfill goals that they personally consider to be in their nation state's interests. But saying that they're on the same team, that's a bit harsh. I think there's a difference between, they're not really the same team. One of them is launching an invasion that's backed by genocidal rhetoric promoted by state media. The other is defending against that. Oh, finally, we've got some white flags in the chat. Zayfam says he's hot, presumably in reference to Kristen. So we have one Colchad in the chat, and everywhere else is just bees. It's just non-stop bees. Oh, shit. Where's the volume?
It would be awesome if Rhaenys just came through the...
Oh, I see. That's like the ending, and then I added in a little...
Him in coins, no one would be saying, oh, his whole motive...
Wait, what? Wait, hold on. I completely... Wait. Did we skip over the Larys scene? Did I skip ahead by accident, or was I not paying attention? Okay, so after the Rhaenys one... Yeah, we got to the Rhaenys one. Let's go ahead.
All nobles in this universe? Because if that's the take, then sure, I hope that gets explored. Or they don't count the audience because it's Game of Thrones, but that doesn't mean anything. Better monarch my ass. Vizzy T would never. Probably because he was too pussy to ride a new dragon after Balerion died, but that's not the point.
Hold on. Yeah.
There are plenty of good scenes.
Yeah, and this is the part at the end of the video where I talk about the actual good parts of House of the Dragon. Episode 9. They're the parts I like, because it's always good to throw in the positives.
Don't get me wrong, the moment Alicent stands up to Otto is cathartic, and I like the idea of these two having a power struggle, even though it was executed kind of awkwardly in this episode. The Dragon Pit coronation looked incredible, although I would have liked to see Sunfire. And the now infamous Larys...
The coronation would have been the perfect ending to this episode. Genuinely. Like, the coronation made me... It was so good that it made me go, okay, this episode... disappointed me at the beginning, sloppy in the middle, strong ending. But then the rainy scene comes in and then it kind of ruins it. The foot scene leak is real.
Scene was actually really well written.
No. Yeah, there was a... Of the many leaks that I tried to avoid, the one that I wasn't able to avoid was the foot scene leak. People being like, there's a scene where Larys jerks off to Alicent's feet. And I remember being like, that has to be a fake leak, right? But then... I think the episode got leaked like a day early or a few hours early, and it was being posted around, and I saw that leak in particular, and I was like, oh boy.
And tasteful, considering what happens. Some people have misinterpreted...
Yeah, so this is me now defending the Larys scene.
This scene as some sort of revelation about Larys' motivations? No, Larys' entire goal is not feet. That's just his payment. It's another way he exerts control over Alicent, while making her believe she has some control over him. If she were paying him in coins, no one would be saying, oh, his whole motivation is money. Just his payment.
Yeah, that's a good point. If Alicent was like, if he was like, I have information about a spy network, I want gold coins, no people watching the show would be like, oh, Larys wants money and that's his ambition. Because no, of course not. But because it's feet, because it's different, people are like, oh, he's driven by feet. But I go into this more in my worst episode of Hot D where I defend this bit and I'm like, no, I'm fine with this. I'm okay with this. Because he's exploiting her, he's manipulating her. He's well, I mean, Matthew Needham said it best. What was it? He's I honestly don't want to put words in his mouth. How he talked about it is I might get it up actually. Before we jump into episode 10, let me get it up. Matthew Needham, Larys. Oh, these fucking clickbait articles. Larys's actor explains foot fetish. Okay. He's a very... Okay, so this is Matthew Needham, the actor for Larys, talking about the foot scene. He's a very disturbed, obviously, individual. I think he's taking revenge on the world. That's how I see him. He's taking revenge on a world that has not treated him kindly in the most twisted way possible. The first time you see him, he's just sitting with a group of ladies and has not said a word. He's just sitting there. In the last scene, he's dictating policy with the Queen. He's going, you need to kill these people, you need to get rid of this thing now. He's saying it to her as if that's what she should do. He's dictating policy. He just doesn't look like he is. I don't think he's a complete... Okay, I don't know. I want to get to the main part. The article doesn't even have the famous quote. Okay, well, I don't know where it is, but... Hold on. Business Insider. I'm glad they're talking about foot fetishes. Where is it? That's it. I don't think it's a foot fetish like we understand it. I don't think he's sexually aroused by feet. It's more that he's making her show her feet. You know, this man who's had this clubfoot disability all his life is making this incredibly powerful person show him her feet. It's such a power move. It's a way of reasserting control, putting someone in a box. It's a display of dominance, really making someone feel as ashamed of that part of her body as he does of his. It's associating her feet with something traumatic, which is what he does. That, I think, is a really good explanation for what happens with what's happening between Larys and Alicent.
As I said, I'll make a longer video down the road.
And then, yeah, I had to edit the audio out of this section because I used the Game of Thrones theme, and Rush is not happy with that for some reason.
It would be awesome if Rhaenys just came through the floor on a dragon.
It would be awesome if Rhaenys came through the floor on a dragon. Okay, we have made it to the end of our marathon. We now have the episode 10 review. I think what I will do is, for my second anniversary, you know, when YouTube became my career in January, I will do live streams where I basically do the same thing. I do commentary over best episode of Hot D and worst episode of Hot D videos. But for now, I think we'll wrap up this live stream by looking at House of the Dragon episode 10 review. Before we do that, let me check the chat in case I've missed super chats or anything important. Shout out to the solid 10 seconds of silence there. Sorry, I was looking at the chat. Okay. There are some very odd comments in the chat of a political nature that I'm not going to address, but I'm just going to say they're very strange. But it's fun to know that Putin used to be a comedian. That's crazy. I had no idea. That's a joke. You want a good queen, but you need the bad stinger. People are still spamming the Lyman stands are out in force. I mean, we know that Lyman Beesbury's grandson becomes the new Lord of Honeyholt, and he is pissed off to no end, and he joins the Blacks. So, again, the very minor house, not very consequential, but it'll be interesting if the new Lord Beesbury is in Hot D Season 2 and is like, fuck you, you killed my granddad. Caden said, I've run an actual marathon, but I consider this a larger achievement. Thanks for sticking with it. I hope you're having fun with this. If you're listening to this and not watching this, I hope you can. I hope my audio's got better to the point that you can work out the difference between when my old video is playing and when I'm pausing it and talking. Because if you can't tell the difference, this entire stream must be really fucking confusing. Okay, let's start episode 10. Oh, the meme. This is the meme. Oh, this is the meme. Oh no.
Hey, you. Finally awake.
If the last episode was
Based. I had to do it to him. That meme may have officially killed off the Skyrim intro meme. It may have been the last one. I turned this into a separate video, which now has like 50k views, which is kind of funny.
was the green episode, focusing mostly on Alicent. This is the black episode, with the spotlight on Rhaenyra. This episode was
The black episode? That sounds woke. That's how you make money on YouTube nowadays.
was everything the previous one should have been. It was well paced, with an ending that satisfied me, despite being a change from the book. Remember, adaptational changes are not inherently good or bad. While the Green Council rushed one of my favourite moments from Fire and Blood, the actual Green Council, this episode embraced those council scenes. They're discussing tactics to defend Dragonstone, calculating potential allies and foes, explaining the dragons and dragon riders on each side. I loved it. For me, these scenes were engaging, but they're very much for the book readers. I can understand that casual viewers might get restless or confused during these scenes. In retrospect, I think this is why they shortened the Green Council scene. Maybe they were scared of boring audiences with too much political discussion 2 episodes in a row. I don't know. I still think it was a mistake.
The
This
reverse
stuff is
role.
just as personal as it is political. Look,
Yeah, so this episode was like, this is what I wanted out of the Green Council, literally. This is what I wanted from the... It's the black characters gathered round, discussing... saying the black characters when they're Valarian sounds like... This is why... Oh, God damn it. The characters on Team Blank, the pro-Rhaenyra people, gathered around the table, talking strategy, talking politics, assessing their situation, talking about allies, dragons. That's what I wanted from the Green Council episode. And again, is it because they didn't want 2 of that in a row, or I don't know.
look at the council scene after Rhaenyra gets crowned. Yes, they're discussing
Also, shout out to that table. That's beautiful. It might not make sense, but it's a cool table.
politics, but there's obvious tension between Rhaenyra and Daemon that elevates it from nerdy world building and tactics to human drama. And this episode is full of human moments. That miscarriage was brutal. I'm not usually squeamish, but damn. The sheer loss Rhaenyra suffers this episode really builds up, all culminating towards her final moment where she is reborn as the Black Queen, her heart hardened, ruthless and ready for the upcoming war.
This is very, very unfair, but comparing Emilia Clarke looking angry after Missandei died, or looking angry on the dragon, comparing that facial acting to Emma Darcy finding out, or Rhaenyra, I don't know why I'm using the actor, to Rhaenyra finding out that Luke is dead. It's just like, it's just fucking masterful acting. Masterful. What a scene.
They haven't shied away from the reality of childbirth this season. We see 2 babies in breach leading to the death of the mother. We see an agonizing birth followed by pure joy, which is immediately undercut by political bullshittery, and now a horrific miscarriage. The baby is misshapen and not dragon-like as described in Fire and Blood, which I appreciate. I think that would have been a bit too distracting.
See, I was wrong. Apparently it is dragon-like. I must have missed that in the episode, but I've seen a picture of the model they used for the baby, and it is covered in scales and shit. It does look like a deformed dragon creature. Yeah.
A bit too distracting.
Oh, interesting. Crossfire in the chat said, the Phantom Menace scared a lot of creators out of doing too much politicking in film and TV. That's a good point. That could be it. That people associated discussions of politics and alliances and stuff like that with with the prequel shows, with the prequel films. But the discussions of politics in Game of Thrones is why people loved it. That stuff was so cool. Why did they abandon?
Speaking of distracting, let's address the girl boss in the room. I do like how she kind of takes Daemon's role as the smug Targaryen standing in the back of the room.
I would like the idea that he sort of leans.
Rhaenys explains why she didn't burn the High Tower.
The Lena has logged on. Sting them all. God damn it. The fact that there are still bee puns coming through is incredible. Sting them all. Sting them in their homes. Sting them in their beds. This is an alternate timeline. Should I animate? I've been thinking about animating some what if A Song of Ice and Fire content. What if the Beesbreeze took the throne? The Mad Queen Bee. Queen Beesbury is like, sting them all! Instead of wildfire caches, it's caches of fucking angry bees all over the city. Jaime Lannister's like, no, I can't do this. My dad's allergic to bee stings. Fucking kills her. The Beesbury dynasty.
Beyond not wanting to kill her own family, which the audience can infer, she states that she didn't want to start Rhaenyra's war for her. It's up to Rhaenyra if she bends the knee to Aegon or fights back. Some people have argued that burning the dais would have ended the war before it began, but remember that the Greens are everywhere. Many lords and nobles do not want a woman on the throne with a bastard for an heir and, let's be honest, a lunatic for a husband. Aegon and Aemond would have died, yes, but remember that Aegon's son Jaehaerys wasn't there. A young child would make a weaker claimant than a young man, of course, but if they wanted an older claimant, they have Daeron in Old Town, whose existence has been confirmed.
Yeah, that's the thing. People being like, if she'd burned the dais, then the Team Green are all dead. And it's like, well, no. You know, a couple of the council and most of them are dead, admittedly, but Aegon's sons are still there, and people can rally behind them or Daeron. You know. Also, yeah, this is Naomi Botello, who someone mentioned earlier in the chat they really liked. Really cool art. This is cool art. In fact, I think everyone apart from Aegon looks amazing. Aegon weirdly looks a bit like the guy who plays Henry VIII in the Tudors. Yeah, he's meant to be kind of like chubby and he looks a bit too Chad like that. But everyone else looks great.
For those watching who haven't read Fire and Blood,
thank you for the super chat from Professor 13N, who asks, excited for... That's kind of spoilery. I don't know if I should read that out. I assume most people listening to this stream like have read Fire and Blood and don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I have been avoiding spoilers. So in that case, if you are listening to this and you don't want to be spoiled for the future of Fire and Blood, for the future of House of the Dragon, mute the video for like 20 seconds while I answer the super chat. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mute the video. Okay, Professor. Am I excited for those deaths? Of course I am. How can I not be? Otto's one in particular, I do wonder who exactly is going, because he gets beheaded. I'm wondering whether it's going to be a random huntsman, not a huntsman, a headsman, while Rhaenyra watches on, or whether it's going to be Daemon. I have a feeling Season 2 is going to end with Fall of King's Landing, Iron Rod and all the loyalists and, what's his name? Otto get beheaded. I think it's going to be Daemon who does the deed. Daemon will personally swing his Valyrian steel sword. I think that's what's going to happen. Cole, I'm looking forward to the Cole one, but they need to fix the issue with the whole Kingmaker thing, because he's not a Kingmaker. All he does is crown Aegon on stage as opposed to convincing him to be king, because why would anyone, like, being like, you know, thousands are dead on your watch, Kingmaker. No, they're not. Kristen Cole has nothing to do with... And if Kristen Cole wasn't there, the coup would not be different. He doesn't do anything. Is he the Kingmaker because he put a crown on his head on the ceremony? No. So, like, yeah. Aemond, obviously the Aemond-Daemon scene is going to be the best thing ever. Imagine Miguel Sapochnik directs it and it's, like, too dark and you can't see what's happening. People so... Anyway.
Yes, Alicent and Viserys had a fourth child who hasn't even been name-dropped this season. Not the smartest creative choice, let's be honest. As I expected, there's no reference to the Great Girl Boss Massacre of 129 AC, but I do hope that this scene is addressed in some way in Season 2. That scene just still feels out of character for Rhaenys. Speaking of controversial moments that got blown way out of proportion, there was a big controversy this episode, and his name was Daemon. Some people didn't like how he was taking matters into his own hands while Rhaenyra was miscarrying, and how he strangled Rhaenyra after
taking matters into his own hands and taking matters into his own hands. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. By which I mean domestic violence. I'm okay with it. No, I'm kidding. I'm fine with Daemon. Like, it's not out of character for him. He's pissed off. He's depressed. You know, he's a violent man. Like, I'm not surprised he'd do this. Some people are really pissed off. And it's a bit unfair for me in this video. I go on to be like, Daemon stans were angry. And it's like, well, no, there's some people had legitimate issues being like, he wouldn't do that to a family member. But I didn't, like, I wasn't shocked by this scene. I was like, well, of course, it's Daemon, you know. Can we just all say this together? Can we all just say, fuck domestic violence? Fuck domestic violence. We're going international. It's about international violence. It's about Dance of the Dragons. Let's do it. Okay.
She brought up the prophecy. What show have people been watching? Daemon is an impulsive warrior prince who expresses his emotions through insults, provocations, and violence. He believes that Viserys has been murdered and is grieving by making war preparations. Oh no, the man who bashed his wife's head in with a rock in order to marry his teenage niece is being abusive to his new wife. How could this happen? It's depressing.
That's true.
That stan culture has entered the fandom, or at least has blown up as a result of the show. But Daemon is a villainous guy. None of this is out of character. Am I disappointed that scenes showing him in a sympathetic light have been cut? Yeah, I am, but just because they're cutting these scenes doesn't mean they are deliberately trying to make him less sympathetic. The hug was cut, but perhaps they just didn't want to show a positive moment in the montage that played over Larys' nihilistic speech. His reconciliatory supper speech was cut, but the director argued that the improvised crown moment was more powerful, which I understand. The dramatic beach scene where Daemon let his emotions out was very short, despite all the leaked photos suggesting a longer scene.
I remember when these came out.
There was probably just a pacing issue there. So yeah, I would like more sympathetic moments for Daemon in Season 2, but none of this is out of character, guys. But do I have any issues or nitpicks with the episode? Otto himself going to negotiate is very risky, and perhaps Alicent should have been there instead for a more emotional scene. But that being said, I do appreciate the parallel with Episode 2. People who say Daemon doesn't age, he genuinely looks older here. The episode also puts a lot of focus on Lucerys, which felt like telegraphing his death, but that's coming from a book reader. They've made him...
Yeah. It felt like being telegraphed slightly. But only slightly. Because they were putting focus on him, but I think it did help build up the tension. I don't think it was a kind of, it's not like a Walking Dead thing, where it's like a character has a sudden bout of progression and like starts crying, and it's like, they are now more sympathetic, and then they immediately die, and it's like, haha, you have been manipulated into feeling sad. It's like, no, it created a sense of impending doom around this character, which I liked.
Likeable and the actor's good, but he's definitely one of the tragedies of the time skip. I haven't spent enough time with him to be truly saddened by his death. Also, this guy, Sir Laurent Marbrand, has a really casual voice that doesn't fit the universe. I felt a bit taken out of the episode every time he spoke.
Princess Rhaenys has just arrived on Dragonback. She urgently requests an audience with you and Prince Daemon.
This is a nitpick. I do feel bad about this. No, I don't. But yeah, you know, earlier I was like, there's no bad casting in the show. This guy, Adam Marbrand, first off, he looks cool, but his voice does not fit Westeros at all. Listen to his voice.
Out of the episode every time he spoke.
Princess Rhaenys has just arrived on Dragonback. She urgently requests an audience with you and Prince Daemon.
What? That's just like a dude. That's just the prop guy came on set. Like, would you... Rhaenys is here on Dragonback. She requests an audience with you and Prince Daemon. Okay. Member of the King's Guard. A little bit of inflection would be nice. Coming from me, a professional actor, of course.
A nitpick. You can tell this was a good episode, can't you? My biggest genuine criticism has to be Corlys throwing his support behind the Blacks despite believing that Rhaenyra and Daemon killed Laenor. He brings it up and Rhaenys just silently stares at him instead of saying, no, I spoke with Rhaenyra and I don't think she did it, or something.
Yeah, this annoyed me. The fact... It really makes no sense why the Velaryons would side with Rhaenyra. Like, no, the marriage, yeah, that makes sense. Baelor, Rhaena being connected, I get that. But they believe that they killed... It would... If they should have just had Rhaenys be like, listen, I don't think Rhaenyra did it. Maybe Daemon did, I don't know. But Rhaenyra definitely did it. And it's about putting her on the throne, and Corlys is like, fine. But instead, he's just like, hey, they killed our son. And Rhaenys just silently sits there, and it's like, oh, so you both believe that then? So why are you siding with them? I don't know. Also, Super Chats. Thank you for the Super Chat from Flippy Dippio Do, who said, do you think Hot D will/should cover Maegor's rule? I don't know, because we're probably going to get an Aegon the Conqueror movie or mini-series. I imagine we're going to get a House of the Dragon anthology that will continue beyond the Dance of the Dragons, but then that does leave the gap. It leaves the gap from Aenys to Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys' rule, no one really gives a shit about seeing that get adapted. Maegor's rule could be a cool solo series. But honestly, I wouldn't put money on it. I wouldn't put money on it, honestly. I think we're going to see The Conquest. We're going to see The Dance of the Dragons. Maybe we're going to see Conquest of Dawn. Maybe we'll see some Blackfire stuff. We're definitely going to see Duncan Egg. I'm not entirely sure we'll see Megal. And thank you for the super chat from Jace the Ace, the first commenter on this stream, who said, missed the first 2 hours, but congrats again. 5 B emojis. B, 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 B. Bzz. Thank you so much, Jace. You're amazing. You missed the first 2 hours. I shouted out your channel because I saw your lovely comment at the start. You said that my channel is inspiring you to try and push your own content. So everyone subscribe to JC Ace and see what kind of content he will produce. Thank you so much for coming to this stream.
He seems to forgive them pretty easily. I had always assumed the season would conclude at Storm's End, and I wasn't disappointed. It looks awesome. No, get out. I like all.
I love great shot, great fucking shot. When he arrives at Storm's End, just a giant silhouette of a crazy old senile iguana in the background. Oh, incredible.
The changes here. A book Boros is a bit of a stereotypical sexist pig, while here he's intimidating but quite pragmatic. Although I refuse to believe he can't read. That's ridiculous.
Read, boy.
Boy.
That's also one of my favourite That's one of my favourite shitposts in one of these videos. Boy.
Intimidating but quite pragmatic.
Yeah, I did like Boris in this, but the whole sort of, where's the bloody maester? The implication he can't read is so, like, come on, you are a Lord Paramount. Yes, you can read. Right. The cliche about peasants being unable to read isn't even true. Because peasants could read, not all of them, but some of them, yes, they learnt to read. They owned cookbooks. Some could read. Right? They weren't wallowing in the mud. A Lord Paramount should absolutely... an illiterate Lord Paramount is insane. Unless the character has some kind of issue with reading, perhaps. But, like, that felt kind of weird to me.
Although I refuse to believe he can't read. That's ridiculous.
Read, boy.
Boy.
Boy?
So, like that Aemond isn't spurred on by a bitchy Baratheon daughter insulting his masculinity, the scene really didn't need that. And I can't get over how
What did I say?
And isn't Baratheon daughter in a bitchy Baratheon...
Oh, yeah. I'm glad they didn't have the Baratheon daughter being like, you're too much of a little bitch to attack Lucerys, and Aemon's like, oh, I am going to do it. That, yeah.
Baratheon daughter insulting his masculinity, the scene really didn't need that. And I can't get over how perfect Aemon looks. The face, the outfit, the sapphire eye, yes. Such an anime villain.
I do like his fucking, like, school shooter trench coat. The fucking, like, leather trench coat he wears, it's fun. He's such a fun character.
He looks like a stylized...
Jay said his videos will be badly written and edited media essays, but thanks for the shout out. Fantasy Haven himself has blessed your videos, so they will not be badly written or edited. They will be excellent. No, joking aside, your first video is always going to be trash. I mean, we literally just watched through my first episode. The script was decent, but it was just no transitions, very little animation, awkward pacing, not even like high quality images, like lots of low res stuff. Compare that to my Tyrell video, which looks pretty good. Like, your first video will be bad. If you want to be a YouTuber, this is Mr. Beast's advice is make your first 100 videos, then we start talking. You know, once you've pumped out 100, if you're not going anywhere by 100, you're doing something wrong. Also, another good tip, improve at least one thing each episode. Each video, every single video, improve one thing. Next time, audio. Next time, transitions. Next time, the thumbnail. Next time, the title. Next time, the description. Next time, I don't know, try and do a collab. Always improve. Be consistent. Consistency doesn't mean post every day. It means be consistent. If you're posting once a week, post once a week. If you're posting once 2 weeks, do that. If you're posting once a month, do that, but be consistent about it. Yeah. And, you know, your first videos are going to suck, and that's okay. And it's going to be cringe to make them. It's going to be cringe to edit. It's going to be cringe to watch, right? Most people can't stand the sound of their own voice. When you do this kind of stuff, like, you get used to it. Like, now it's just a fun process. So, yeah. In fact, I'm going to subscribe to your channel now, Jace. I'm going to subscribe to your channel. and you're going to have some cool video essays coming out. And I'll share them around if I think they're good. Because, you know, Quinn was a bigger YouTuber than me. Not by much, but he was a bigger YouTuber than me. And he helped me out, so it's only fair that I help out up-and-coming YouTubers.
Drawing of a chaotic evil D&D character come to life. The chase itself...
Oh, wait. Let me go back to that.
Such an anime villain. He looks like a stylized drawing of a chaotic evil D&D character come to life. The chase itself was terrifying, and shout out to director Greg Yaitanes for making things dark and rainy and confusing, but still visible. Take notes.
Yeah.
Mr. Mig.
Yeah. Great scene. Confusing, rainy, you know, deliberately... You know, your eyes are deliberately straining to see what's happening, but you can work it out. It's not like the Long Night episode, where you're like, I literally can't see what's happening. And Greg Yaitanes isn't coming back for season 2, which is a shame. But hopefully he'll come back in future seasons, because he did this episode and it was great.
Alright team, how do we make the Greens less villainous? Okay, hear me out. How about, instead of murder, manslaughter. I actually really like this change. Both dragons refuse the commands of their riders. Arrax because he's a terrified cat lashing out, and Vhagar because she's a grumpy old pitbull who's had enough bullshit. The scene...
Okay, yeah. I've been asking your opinion throughout this. One more question for you guys. Oh my god. Sorry. I was holding in like a burp there, and it made my voice go high, and it made me sound like one of those YouTubers who's like, what's up guys, welcome to my channel, please hit the like. I was like, hi guys. Okay. One more question, everyone. Do you like the death scene being accidental, being manslaughter? Yeah, manslaughter, not an accident. Because, you know, if you've got your gun out and you're pointing it at someone's face to intimidate them, and then it goes off, that's not an accident, that's fucking manslaughter, because you put them in that situation. So Aemond put him at risk and wanted to capture him to take his fucking eyes out, but he didn't want to kill him. At the most, he wanted to scare him. Sorry, at the least he wanted to scare him. At the most, he wanted his eyes. So it was an accidental death. He's still responsible, but ultimately it wasn't, I'm going to hunt you down and kill you. It was, oh no, my pit bull has gone out of control. Do you like that? Let me know. Or did you think it was actually yet another change from the books where they're making things about miscommunication and accidents and no one's actually doing things for a reason? It all just seems to be chance, you know.
Tragic and scary. Viserys warned us that riders don't really control their dragons. It also makes Aemond less of a villain. Don't get me wrong, he dresses like a villain, he's an asshole, he wants his teenage nephew to cut his own eye out, and the way he torments said nephew leads to his accidental death. But he's still not as bad as Daemon, let's be honest. It also opens up the potential for a cool arc. Will Aemond deny that he murdered Lucerys, or will he embrace the title of Kinslayer? Because admitting he lost control of Vhagar damages his ego, as well as the perception of the Green's strength. Either way, Lucerys Velaryon is dead, and the final scene of the season prepares us for war.
Rest in peace. F's in the chat for Luke.
Thanks for watching. I hope to make a full season review soon, and I have lots of video ideas planned.
If you're wondering why the audio's gone like underwater, it's because, you know, Game of Thrones theme, Russia isn't happy, so...
This channel started with Hot D, but I hope to expand into other fantasy.
So that was me like dampening the music to stop the copyright. Yeah. The messy days. We've improved though. Right. There we have it. Let's see what people think about that episode in the chat. Also, there's someone commenting called Caden, and I've literally only just put together that the guy called Caden in the chat is my patron called Caden. Like, genuinely, I don't even know. Just ignore. I'm a senile old man, okay? What are people saying? Okay. Corvus said, I really like this scene. The accidental nature makes it even more exciting. Making the dragons autonomous is better, says Carlos. Callum said, either way, definitely a cool idea, especially to push him further down the villain route. That's what I think. You know, he needs character development, so making him an outright villain at the start, there's nowhere for him to go. Making him jump into that is, like, making him do something like that early on, and then he becomes more villainous and more of a war criminal over time makes sense. Which is why it's even more baffling why they did what they did with Aegon. Never mind. Unless they go the other way with Aegon, they make him a better person. I went too far up the chat. Yeah, Marangatang says, I think Hot D does it better because it gives Vizzy some legitimacy in don't give nukes to children, and humanised Aegon to a degree. I think you meant Aemond. Yeah. Flippy said, I personally prefer this version. I think it keeps Aemond as a dark character, but makes him more complex and less cartoonishly evil than in the books. Boombler said, it takes away from Aemond being a kinslayer. I like the idea that he's so angry and bitter that he will go so far as to murder his nephew. So you don't like the change because you like how far he goes with it. Nicholas says, it's okay for me. It was set up and gives a character room to grow into villainy instead of just making him evil from the get-go. Yes. Fully agree. And thank you for the super chat from Lamini, who says, congrats Haven, well deserved. Your dedication is inspiring. Thank you so much. If any of you are interested in chill video game streams or sort of like crafting, crochet kind of streams, check out Lamini. Go sub to her. Check out her streams. Okay, so... Oh, holy shit. I've nearly been going for 4 hours. Why did no one tell me? God damn. Okay, so... There we have it. The anniversary special. I spent 4 hours on you motherfuckers. There was laughter. There was tears. There was a teenage boy in a window making it rain on all the peasants. There were memes. There were shitposts. There were bees. And there were even more bees. And there were even more bees. 1 year. It's been a year since I started this channel. Since then, I've quit my job, conquered some mental health issues, and I've got 19,000 subscribers. I've got nearly 2 million views. We've got sponsorships coming up. We've got Patreon. I want to release some merch next month, so if you guys want to support the channel with one-time payments of mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, anything that you think could be fun or cute in time for Christmas, let's build up this channel. I want to get a new monitor. I want to get a new microphone. I want to get Premiere Pro again. After Effects. More animation. More lore. I mean, next time, you know what we've got coming up? The Blackfire Rebellions. Not rebellion, rebellions. I'm doing all 5 rebellions and maybe talk about Young Griff a little bit in my next video. Bittersteel will love it. It'll be neutral, of course. I'm not a biased man. Yeah, as usual, subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know what, I don't need to say that, you have. If you're interested in the Patreon, check it out. It should be in the description, I hope. Just patreon.com/fantasyhaven. All kind of tiers. At the lowest tier, which is just £2, you can join the Discord and engage in group chats and voice chats and just shitposting. You get exclusive content such as the History of House Dane video. For higher tiers, you get wallpapers. I make art for you. Video name in the description and video, the art cameos on screen for the very highest tier. It's up to you, and if you can't afford it, then don't do it. If you can't afford it, god damn, just support me with liking and subscribing and commenting and building up the community. Hopefully we can get to the point where we're collaborating with big names like Glidus and Alt-Shift X and all of these amazing big YouTubers. I can't wait. It's only a year and we've got only a year we've made it this far, so thank you for indulging me in my exercise of narcissism, going through my old videos and laughing at them instead of laughing at them. But I genuinely wouldn't be here without you. You've made my channel what it is, and I love you all. And I will pledge right now, if Winds of Winter is released, I will not eat it like Glidus, but I will dye my hair blue in honour of Young Griff. You heard it here first. Love you all, and goodbye. Keep a lookout for the Every Reach House in CK3 Explained coming out this Friday, and keep an eye out for the every single Blackfire Rebellion animated in about 3 weeks. Yeah. See ya. Love you all. End stream.